You are now watching Cherry Coke with Coach.
Hey, welcome to episode number 11 of Cherry Coke with Coach. Thank you for listening and watching like always. Continue to like, share, follow, subscribe. Please go to Cherry Coke with Coach and subscribe on YouTube. I'm trying to reach my goal of 50 subscribers. I think we're about halfway there. So go and just click that subscribe button. Then you get notifications of every time that you can catch a show. I think I do it every week. We're 11 weeks straight. Kip's only missed 2, but I've had the solo one. I don't think we'll do that one again. That one was a little interesting. Felt like I was doing some ASMR or something. It was just weird. I got a few shout outs this week. There it is. There's the 15 subscribers. So a little lower than I thought, but so go ahead and just hit that button, and it'll let you know every week when it's posted on YouTube, and you can see the video and check out our smiling faces. Some shout outs this week. Danny O'Neill. I went to school with him at Ellsworth Community College, so you'll see a new logo. He sent me it the other day. So I'll pop that on the screen. You'll see it on our Instagram, Facebook, all that fun stuff. The best part about it was he sent me numerous options. And I told him I want a little green in there, a little hint of green, because green needs to be in there. Just a hint, right? He put the cherry Coke in the sunglasses, so you can see that. And then the one thing I noticed about, I don't know how he did it or if he meant to do it, but he kind of looks like I have a dip in my lip on one side. The beard's kind of screwed up, so I was like, that one's like the most perfect one, but I need sunglasses because I always wear sunglasses, and so I think it worked out pretty well. So I look for T-shirts, maybe we'll have coffee cups up here pretty soon. Danny definitely will get the first T-shirt. I promised my wife the second one, and Kip will get the third one. So that's just the way it works out. But thank you, Danny, for that awesome logo. I get you in touch with him if you want him to do some graphic design for you. I'm sure he'll gladly do some work for you because he does it a little fun for on the side. The Red Oak Booster Club. We had a pretty fun Tiger Invitational yesterday. Weather was a little rough to start. These two gentlemen, who we'll get to in a minute, were in there as well. But once again, it was a good, long day. I think it was probably the longest one I've been to, but it's always a good seeing all the support for the Red Oak Athletics. 35 teams. I think 36 were registered, but one couldn't make it, I heard. So 35 teams altogether. But I'm sure those boosters put in a lot of work, and it runs pretty smooth, I feel, but we don't see all the behind-the-scenes stuff that they have to go through. But thank you to all of them. You all know who you are. I don't have a list in front of me. So, but then also, thank you for those who have reached out. I talked to a few people there the other day about the updates we're planning to do to the locker room. We're in the approval process and still have the plan to start June 1st with paint epoxy and build this locker room for not just football. Soccer uses it, track uses it. It could be a good space for Red Oak down at the football field. So thank you for all those reaching out about that and acquiring on that fun project I'm kind of trying to push through. Introductions. Kip's back again. What's going on with Kip?
It's
no days off?
No days off, and we're in the home stretch of the school year. Junior high track conference meet. We're just going to say this week, scheduled for Monday, looking like Tuesday. Had one meet last week and a bunch of rain. Baseball started, so we're getting started into that. And then about, 2 weeks? 3 weeks of school?
Yeah, I think
14
yeah.
days. Sounds about right. So that's winding down. So
it's always fun because as a student, a lot of the teachers wanted to be here. And then now, we want to be here. We want to be educating the kids, but it's like we count down the days as well.
Yeah, April flew by, and track's just thinking it's going to be done in 2 days seems crazy, but it goes by fast. But kids have gotten better. It's always fun. It has its ups and downs, but going to finish on a high note in front of the home fans, home crowd on Tuesday, most likely. So,
do they rotate that like high school too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the first time we've had it, and since I've been here, this is my 7th year. So
something good for the school too, because that brings a lot. 11 teams.
Yep.
Boys, just boys, correct?
Yep. And at junior high, they split up boys and girls, and so our girls Coach Allison's going to take them up to Denison.
Okay.
So they do 2 different sites, and then that helps it go a little faster too. But
Denison's got a track program down there. They pulled up with 2 buses for the one track meet I was working. They had like 30 throwers. I'm like, holy cow.
we were over at Glenwood on Friday, and for their middle school team, showed up with 2 buses, 7th grade on one bus, 8th grade on one bus. We pulled up with 19 kids and 2 coaches.
Could have used 2 transits to get you guys there.
Yeah. I mean, we like our buses, Barb.
Oh yeah. They're nice and comfy, right? I try to stay off the bus. I ride the bus during football, so I try to ride in comfort 2 games. But maybe this week I'll jump on the bus for districts. It'll be, every once in a while.
And we've kind of we hosted high school last year.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, this year was in Shan.
I think the year before or last year too, we hosted middle school girls. So
Nice.
I think Mark's gonna look forward to having a couple years off hosting.
Well, at least
Hawkeye 10s.
At least gets 10 because we rotate around for the high school ones.
Yep.
So.
We're just heading high school 10 Hawkeye 10 art show here.
Yeah.
So we should be good with that for a while.
So that was a whole day of fun, and that was awesome. Kurt Adams retiring this year.
Mm-hmm.
Last year he gets to host it. He said it went well. I walked through and saw some of that art, and I was like, "Holy cow!" I hate to admit it, my wife told me you need to go see the art from these kids from Shenandoah, and I'm like, I won't go to that booth. No, I went and looked. It was great art by all the kids. You guys get a nice overlap. So we'll get to our guest, Red Oak native. It's the current girls basketball coach, assistant football coach, assistant baseball, ex-tennis, ex-softball. I think I got it all right there.
Yep, ex-junior high basketball, ex-junior high football.
Just add to the list.
Yep.
He takes care of the detention kids here, so he puts the hammer down at the high school. He just got voted most intimidating. Was that the word?
Yep. Most intimidating male at the school.
That's a badge of honor. You know. So
I'll take it.
We have Tristan Johnson here with us today. How's it going, Tristan?
Good. Happy to be here. It's a fun time.
You get. I see. If you notice, these guys are dressed like twins here. They are not brothers. They're just both baseball coaches. And you guys had practice today, right?
Yep. Yeah, we had a Sunday afternoon practice. We're supposed to have it yesterday morning. A little wet, a little cold, so we moved it back to Sunday afternoon.
Pamper those kids,
Yep.
Can't get them that wet or cold.
And coaches don't like cold, wet, and rainy practices either.
I try when it rains. I try and hide in the locker room. And that's Sue Aiden coach, but she always tells me to get out here. So I think you and me got caught the one day.
And Weiser, it was all of us.
And she's tougher than all 3 of us. So let's go over like our local sports here. Kip kind of touched on junior high track. Will be running Monday, so next week we'll have some results from their Hawkeye 10. Boys soccer, they're still looking for their first win. They got 3 games left. I think all 3 this week. They go to Creston. Sounds like they had pretty high hopes about that one. I think we'd be able to get that one. Underwood, again, at home. They're pretty solid. And then they go over to Carroll to finish the year on the 10th. The girls soccer team got their first win last week against Riverside. So that equals a pizza party for them from me. Morelli and Jasmine, I think we made the bet on here, or maybe previous to that. But
You alluded to a bet for sure. I didn't know what the bet was, but
last year I told them if they scored a goal, I would get them donuts. And I worked at the concession stand, and they just like rocketed up like 3 or 4 goals that game. And I'm like, it's like we're having donuts in class. So
I saw Jasmine before the game, and in the parking lot. I was going to baseball. She was going to soccer, and I was like, "Hey, go get that dub tonight." And she was like, "Oh yeah, okay," and like kind of shaking off. I was like, "Hey, you gotta think positive."
yeah.
And then they went and got the win. So I got to give her a little hard time at school the next day about thinking positively.
No matter who you're playing against, you got to think you're going to win.
and, in the last couple of minutes when it was going to be close, we came over from baseball and kind of watched the last minute or so and
Give a little more
applied. So
encouragement.
it was pretty cool as Dalton Billing coach and seeing them how happy they were and seeing them celebrating.
Yeah.
And Coach Coffey getting his first win, so first win in just pure girls
I believe
program
so.
history.
Yeah, because I know they didn't win last year because donuts was for goals. So so it's huge. It's still a JV program, but
I believe so.
I think they're playing some I mean, I know they told me some games they bring the girls or varsity girls, they come over, and I mean, it's just gonna make them better. For the long
Only
run,
one
but-
senior, Casey, so she's got a lot of experience herself, but they'll bring everybody back, hopefully.
So I shot Morelli a text today and asked her what the score was because they didn't have it on bound, but it was 2-1. And Casey Kells got 1 goal and Morelli got the other goal. So she's like, she said 2-1. A win's a win though, and I'm like, absolutely. Like I'm not here to give you crap. I'm here to find out how it happened so we can share with the world that the girls got their first dub. Boys golf, they got 2 meets left. They go to Clarinda on 5-6, so that's what Monday, and then 5-8. What would that be? Thursday? Is that the right math?
Wednesday.
Wednesday they go to I-35 for districts. I don't know how much we have looking towards qualifying. I know girls have some pretty good solid. We might have an opportunity as a team to qualify. Yeah. They go to Glenwood on Monday, and then 5-10. So Friday they'll be at Red Oak for their districts. That's pretty nice getting to play a home meet for your districts. Good luck to both those teams in their last few matches. Golf meet. Yeah, I think it's a meet. Yeah, we'll go with meet. Boys tennis, they finished 5th at conference. Pretty good showing for Red Oak. Coach, you used to be the coach. Now Weston and Rawlings is that last name. Like that's one of those that I just screw up. Thank goodness people tell me before because Rolack is what I always said. So Rawlings, Coach Rawlings took over this year. Do you know how the boys did individually as doubles and singles?
Yeah, Max went number 1 singles. At Hawkeye 10, they have a number 1 singles bracket. They have a number 2 singles bracket. Max went number 1. I think he got 5th. Joshua went number 2 singles and he got 5th as well. Griffin Eubank and Landon Gigstad, they went number 1 doubles and they got 4th. I think they could have got 3rd. They were in that match, and then our other group of Tyler Strunk and Jackson Purdue, they didn't place. Ethan Strunk, yeah. They didn't place in their bracket, so
pretty good showing for us. I know what so there's how many per teams or individuals would be per division then at 1 and 2?
There would be 11 single players in each
5 doubles.
Bracket. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty good showing for Red Oak there. They got singles and doubles districts at Red Oak on Wednesday.
Yep.
And then they go to North Polk for team districts down to my neck of the woods. That North Polk, that's Alleman, Iowa. That's probably 15 minutes north of Ames, just outside of Ankeny. It's a 2 hours, 15-minute drive. And I also heard from a little birdie that Sadell, which is on the other side of Ankeny, which is, let's see how far it is from Alleman. I just screwed up, Coach. So 21 minutes from Alleman. But Sadell is coming to Shenandoah. Does this happen a lot in tennis?
It doesn't normally. There's not a lot that we can. This whole team district is brand new. They started it last year. It used to be based off of your individual district. You got points for each win you got, and then the best 3 teams with the most points moved on. So this is new. So this is the first time it's happened here that we've had to go there for boys. Girls, it does happen quite often. I don't understand it.
They're going to be driving by each other, slapping hands as they drive on I-80 past each other. So Sadell's coming to Shenandoah, and Red Oak is going to North Polk. So that's interesting. Girls wise, girls finished 3rd at conference. I know Merced got 1st. Was that the 1 bracket then?
Yep, number 1 single, she got 1st. Caden or Grace, I don't remember which one played. Number 2 singles, and she also got 1st or 2nd.
Nice.
And then their doubles teams got 5th and 5th, I believe.
Okay.
Which is
And Sophie Walker, the last time, number 1 singles.
Yeah, Sophie would be the last winner in number 1 singles.
How many years ago would that have been?
2020 was canceled, so 2019.
about 5 years.
2020, she would have won it again. They probably would have won state as a team that year without it, unfortunately. And she probably would have won individual state, but
Year
just
before
didn't
that,
have it.
her and Stryker went to state as doubles, right?
Yep. The year before that, they got fourth, third. I think they got third as doubles partners at state that year, and she would have went singles the next year. But
How big of a gap was there? Like, because Red Oak's pretty good at tennis over the years. Is it like every few years they have good tennis players? Or do you think like every year there's somebody that's itching that even if they don't win the Hawkeye 10, they have a chance to compete at state?
yeah, we've kind of taken a slump a little here lately. When Martinez has left, when I was young and I played for Martinez, he had a summer league program, and you were signed up from when you were in second grade. You played. They hosted tournaments here. You played all summer long. You played with the high school kids. You just got used to playing, and you played all the time. We were just much better all the time. So you had kids every year that were really good.
Sure.
Usually I know the one year we played Lewis Central, I was on JV, but we scheduled too many matches for our varsity team, so our JV went and played Lewis Central's varsity team, and we won the meet with our JV kids. It just is, we were just a much better powerhouse. Other teams have started focusing a little more on the summer leagues, and ours has kind of not been there here lately.
Mm-hmm.
We still have the Y running it, and they do a fantastic job. It's just we don't have the same
The
kids.
participation.
We don't have as many kids. We don't have, some of the tournaments have gone away.
Yeah.
A lot of kids are pointing out there's a guy that did lessons, Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy Kennard, he did a lot of lessons.
Kids would give him credit about lessons when they were younger.
Yeah, he did a lot of lessons. He was really good too. Him and Martinez's were pretty good together, and you just always had tennis. I mean, it was always your best thing here, and you either played tennis or you went and ran track. But a lot of your stud athletes and better ones played tennis because that's what you played as a kid.
Yeah.
So,
And grow up playing that. I mean,
Lately, I think
when
Merced, her and Tessa, I think we're kind of the top players. They focused more on like number of doubles.
Yeah.
So she was like her first time ever really playing singles at conference because they had been going at doubles.
yeah.
Yeah, she had mentioned that in her interview. I listened to that from the KMA interview.
It's interesting what you can do in tennis because sometimes you can be the best singles player, but if you go doubles with your partner, now somebody's going to make state that probably shouldn't have
Yeah.
if you were playing singles, but they're
Yeah.
going to get in, and that's just how it works. And so a lot of teams will try to figure out where you're going, and then they'll put their best players in the opposite and
Yeah,
hope that they
makes
can
sense.
get their kids to state. So
I know I talked to the St. Albert's coach. He's one of the bowling coaches as well, and they got a couple bowlers that play tennis. The Penke kid, Peckney?
Peckney.
Yeah, tall. That kid's freaking 6'6". When he throws that bowling ball, it just drops it on the pins. But excuse me. He said, yeah, they went for doubles. And they kind of like went all in on doubles and said, we'll sacrifice and see who we can fit there, but we're going to put our top guns together and see what we can do, and at least get maybe a top conference title out of that. And I think they did.
yeah, they won. I think they won last year's conference title, and like this year, like for our district, you've got Andrew Lawrence from Shan. He's a 2-time state qualifier. You got Evan Timmerman from Southwest Valley.
Yeah.
He's a 2-time qualifier. And now Lewis Central's in our district this year, and they have a Jensen kid. I can't think of his first name, but he's a state qualifier from last year from a different district. So they're all going singles. So
together.
you got 3
Right there.
top guys, and only 2 can make it. So
Yeah.
if you're one of the better single players and you've lost to those guys, it might be a better time to go doubles than singles.
Do you have to declare your team before you get there, or can you get there and like, oh, I see what this team's doing, I'm going to switch it?
You have to declare, but that's only in case you miss the seating meeting. Well, if you were there before the seating meeting, you can change it however you want. But
So you just got to be a good coach and do your job.
if you're there early, you can change it. So a lot of like when we were really good and hosting all the time, a lot of teams would send in a fake one.
Yeah.
What they think would, so in case that would change Martinez's mind of what he would do with the teams, because they knew he was going to see it probably.
Yeah.
And they would change when they get here, but most of the time you know where you're going.
Yeah.
And
How many
everybody,
classes in tennis is there?
2,
Just 2.
just 2.
Get
So
after
I'm like,
it.
that's the only way it makes sense that Southwest Valley and Lewis Central
Yep.
be
Play
the same
tennis
district.
against each
They're
other,
both
yeah.
in 1A tennis. I mean, we go against
That's crazy.
Waterloo, Columbus. We go.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most.
And 2A is just pretty much your 4A, 5A type schools.
Yep. And I went through and looked at when my last year was tennis. I was head coach. I went through and kind of emailed our guy that sits on the board, asking if they could go to 3 classes because we would have been in 1A still. But like your Lewis Centrals, they would have been a 2A.
Yeah.
You still would have had 24 of your top schools in 3A, and I think it would have just equaled it out a little more.
And watered down one or the other.
Yeah, and you could have probably convinced somebody to host a state tournament here because now you got more of the Southwest Iowa teams and
Yeah.
not your centralized. So
Yeah.
But-
It's kind of crazy. Tennis is pretty big over here in Southwest Iowa. Central Iowa, I mean, they have tennis teams, and we would, if you were at Rolling Story, you would go to Ballard and play for them.
Yep.
We kind of had co-ops for different sports. But Southwest Iowa, I mean, it's like you said, Southwest Valley plays it. You know, you're just saying all these small schools, and they have full tennis teams.
Yep.
And then the sad part is they got to go compete against these big schools, and then you got to drive 2 hours just to compete. The state of Iowa just amazes me with how they do things because they do it in bowling too. Well, they have Shan drive all the way up to Lake somewhere up north.
by Sioux City.
Sioux City, yeah, and it's like we had two different tournaments here that they could district tournaments, and
Yeah.
they did. My first year here, Ballard came over here and played,
Yep.
and it was nice for me because I got to see some of my ex players. But that's a haul. They stayed the night in Atlantic. They said they didn't know Red Oak had hotels.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's. And I'm sure they do it in other sports too.
Yeah, and like we're going to North Polk this Saturday. We go to North Polk, and I'm actually going to coach. Weston's getting married. He's got his, his marriage that day. But so I'm taking him up and coaching him, and we play Southwest Valley. We're 20 minutes away from them. We could play here. They could drive up, and whoever wins drives up and plays the
Pick
winner of
them
that
up on the
one. But
bus.
it's like we got to drive 2 hours and 15 minutes to play a team that's
So
20
you're
minutes
just
from us.
gonna pick them up on the way. Or?
Yeah, like it's just crazy. I don't get it.
We'll meet you on 71. Be staying on the side of the road.
It's just
Hop in.
well, the state does it for some reason. Who knows? I don't think we mentioned the girls. They'll be going to Pella. So yeah, we'll just go straight in line with what we're talking about. I usually have good things to say about the union, but in this case, they kind of take a piece of cake from the association and do it a screwy way. But Pella, but then considering just like you said, Coach, the Pella Red Oak, that's a 3A football, 3A football powerhouse, and they're a powerhouse in about every sport. And then you got a 1A football school like Red Oak coming over to play against them. It's interesting.
They did play there last year, so
Yeah.
Merced kind of alluded to it in her interview. Like, a lot of the team been there, kind of know what it's going to be like, and know the surroundings. So.
I remember they do have I coached against Pella when I was at Ballard. I went over there a couple times. They got a wonderful tennis facility. I mean, there was like 12 courts right there.
Yeah, you've got a
on
bunch
campus.
of courts right there, and then they use like 8 others at a different location.
Maybe
to
over at
start the
Central
day.
College.
Yeah, I think it's Central to start the day. So they put all the matches on right away, and then you get down to the last few,
And send them
and
over
now
there.
you're back in one location.
And I mean, all those, and they're not like, they're right next to each other. I
Yep.
mean, it's a nice setup. It's kind of weird because when you pull up, it's like almost right in front of the school. It's a little off to the side, but then you can wrap around it to go to the football field and stuff. But they got a nice setup, and it's a perfect place to host a big event like a district. But Red Oak also has some nice options here to host events. What do you got? 1, 2, 3 different locations, really?
Yeah, I mean you've got
The indoor,
you got the
outdoor,
indoor, you got the
yeah.
outdoors, and if we really wanted to, we got a lot of families that have tennis courts in their backyard that would.
That'd be
let
kind of
us-
cool.
I know when I was little, we had tournaments, and we'd play at Legion, we'd play up here, we'd play in the Walker's backyard, we'd play in Mark Jackson's backyard, and you just got to know different people throughout the town
Yeah.
playing in their
It's
backyard.
like
They'd
pool
come watch
hopping
you.
with your tennis court hopping.
Yeah, it was different. You'd always take your opponent to go play with you. Like that was back in the day. Drive your opponent to the other courts and play. And just
Dude, that'd be kind of cool. In Minnesota, they play pond hockey, so they do outdoor weekends. So a bunch of high schools play outdoor games. It's kind of cool to have like a Saturday tournament where you're just court hopping around Red Oak and you know, maybe have the championship games here at one of the main courts, but you know, the little games everywhere, like you could hop over there and maybe see a Timmerman versus a DeVries in Walker's backyard, and go down the street, see two other ones, and that'd be kind of a, hey, that might be a fundraiser activity.
It'd be a good
Rollins, tune in, buddy. Hit that subscribe button so you can get this information.
Midnight Madness, get some lights going.
Yeah.
Play a little night game.
If they got a tennis court in their backyard, they can get some floodlights for us.
A lot of them have the lights already installed.
Well, it's probably not. I mean, you probably just need 2 posts, and
it's
it's
not
not a
much.
lot. You just got to. I mean, it's not a lot of ground to cover, but
You only have the 2 posts for the 4 courts, so you got 1 court. You only need 1 light, pretty much.
yeah,
It
so
covers
it'd be good
it.
to go. We gotta go out a 2-court backyard one. I know in Waterloo, by my grandma's house, I remember there was a house that had 2, and then you went down lower, and there's a pool, and I'm like, man, that's a gnarly house to have. But yeah, tennis court in the backyard. Ain't none like that in Story City. We have our 2 courts and call it good. And we usually play home run derby there. It's actually our fenced monster. So in left field for the not T-ball, but the next up, Babe Ruth. So you have to hit it over the fence for tennis for a home run. So it was our chain link monster, not the green monster. But then they fixed the baseball field and they put the fence, so there's like a walking gap now. It's like, you wasted money paying for that fence. Just connect it to the other fence and call it good. We used to not have a fence in right, and it'd go up the hill to the carousel, and if you hit the carousel, you were that dude. you had something. So, and then the girls played 5-10 at Shan for team districts. Correct. So
Individual.
good luck to all them in the tennis world. Hawkeye 10 review. Coach Smith from Atlantic once again sent us a nice review. I did my job and put it on the screen last time, so I'll try and do it again this week. Hawkeye 10, pretty good day over there. Some of the Hawkeye 10 conference meet crazy performers. He gave us a nice list here. Glenwood boys team wins the meet by 27.5 points. Sears and Sorfenson sweep the gold and silver in the 100 and 200. Sears actually broke the 100-meter dash record. It was 10.7, set back in like 1974. I'm surprised it took that long to get a beat, but he ran a 10.69, and then Sorfenson was right behind him with like a 10.3 or 10.73.
Yeah, because when you think back of Hawkeye 10, all the athletes
Yeah,
that have been through in the last 40 years.
and nobody's been able to break that. So that's congratulations to them. Colin Razy had a sweet gold and silver in the 400. It was a 50.1 and a 50.11. Brody Colin, both from Shenandoah. Colin pretty much dove over the finish line. He kind of got a little ahead of himself, but another great race. Jake Fink from Denison finishes almost 3 seconds ahead of second place in the 400 hurdles. He almost got conference record. I think he was pretty short, maybe a second or 2 away from it. But
He got to the Denison school record, so
in the,
400 hurdles.
before this, or was that
On that race.
There was a race. Okay, good. Pretty good high jumper. He did put up the number 1 as he crossed. Maybe that cost him that extra second.
Yep.
Brendan Agers, 11:50 in ahead of the second in long jump, so 11 feet 5 inches,
No.
or 11 inches.
11 and a half inches.
Yeah, there we go. I'm not good with the numbers, you know. Another Harlan kid, Evan Adams, district discus. He threw a 154.09. That's 8 feet further than second place. I don't know where he's from.
He's from Kemper.
Kemper.
He's going to go play football at USD.
Oh, nice.
He's a big kid.
I think I saw him throw. He was throwing early when I got there. Harlan 4x1, 10.7. Average split for the first place finish. That's at Sorensen and Sears, and then 2 other guys. Shenandoah is 4x4, 3-second lead on Creston for first. That was a pretty fun race to watch. They're pretty good. As a Red Oak coach, I know we're not supposed to talk praise on Shan, but that's a darn good track team they have over there this year. and I hope they go far because they finished third last year, and it's good competition for our guys. I always say the past 2 years the fastest kids in the state are coming from Southwest Iowa. It's crazy. Lewis Central's 4x8 ran an 8:18:42 without Eichhorn or Coots.
That's like a 204 average. So
that's moving. That's moving pretty well.
The big dogs too.
Lily Denton, 5-second lead on second in the 800. She did lose the mile to the Harlan girl. I don't know if she's got the top mark in
Sunderman there.
Girls. So, what else was there? Danica Arnold, Glenwood Senior goes sub 60 for the gold.
Sprint med.
Yeah, probably.
Just, yeah.
Ava Underwood was 5.5 and jump for first in the high jump, and then Glenwood 4x1 and 4x2 double golds in the 4x1 and 4x2. Glenwood won both, boys and girls. You got to put all your eggs in one basket. I know it looked like Shenandoah was going for it. They were going for points. They had 2 guys running the 400 for once. They kind of loaded up stuff. Had 3 guys I'd never seen run the sprint med and then had Rozzy just hawk everybody else in the race. It was amazing. I talked to him afterward. He ran a 50.99 split. 49.99 split. So he was cooking. But yeah, and we can give it a shout out to Titus. He's the wheelchair kid from Shan. He's going to go to state again and probably medal. He gets a lot of gold medals there, and I think he's only a sophomore.
Sounds right.
But he does. It's always fun watching him scoot around the track, and it's good to see the crowd.
Glenwood girls, it's like 7 of the last 8 I think they've won.
Jeez.
And Glenwood's.
Well, the boys have been a little bit.
Yeah, I think Lewis Central was going for like a 3-peat or something maybe.
Yeah, that's probably right.
So,
and I think they got second. Shan got third, and because the Shan was like 108, and then Harlan was fourth. Important to keep eyes on to a District 8 boys, 10 points second. I don't know what all that means. Sorry, Bryce, I should have contacted you and asked you some questions. But projected winners for different sites that host the Hawkeye 10. Trainer, projected winner for the boys would be Underwood and Van Meter for the girls. Atlantic, we're looking up here in the top right corner. At the Atlantic meet, ADM is projected to win the boys at 163, and ADM projected to win the girls at 101. They got a heck of a sprinting team there at ADM when you got Division I athletes doing the sprinting. St. Albert's boys are projected to win the Fremont Mills meet, and Fremont Mills for the girls. And then Sergeant Buff Luton, which will have Lewis Central. Bishop Heelan's projected to win the boys, and MOC Floyd is projected to win the girls. Pretty good track teams that he has projected to win, but it's you got to show up and race and see what happens. In the state of Iowa, it's top 8, so top 2 from each district, 8 districts, so that's 16, and then it's the top 16 after that qualify. So doesn't matter. You might not get top 2, but if you run your best, your PR, and you might have a chance to sneak in.
Yep, and I feel like girls have done that for a while. And boys, they just kind of switched over.
Because the union's smarter than the association. So,
but like back in our day, it was just top 3. So if you were in a loaded district, you were just
SOL.
Yep, and if you were in the weak one, because I remember going to watch the state meet, and I couldn't even throw varsity on my team. But I'd go there, I'm like, I would have got 15th. How did those guys even get this state?
Yeah, there's some times that you see, and you're like, wow, they got that. I mean, it's just how the cookie crumbles. And like I said, we're probably the fastest area. Southwest Iowa just brings the heat. So one other thing I had for IJAG, that's the class I teach, Iowa Jobs for American Graduates. We have 6 kids going to Ankeny on Tuesday to do presentations. We have Mason Fisher, Sergio Villanueva, and Zaire Rodriguez. They're going to do a PBL and talk about what a PBL is, project-based learning. And that's what we do in class. So they'll do their project, and they created a device that if you try and steal a package off somebody's porch, it shocks you. And it's a pretty entertaining video, which I think will give us a boost to win that contest. And then the girl group of Morelli Ramos, Jasmine Grizzard and Miley Eckernott will be doing a love project, and it's based off of like community service project. So we'll be talking about the George Mayer Day, pretty good service, community service project day they have here in Red Oak for the great George Mayer. I never got to meet him, but what I've heard about him was he was pretty wonderful. Mr. Red Oak, some would say.
He was a great guy. His wife was a great lady. We played tackle football in College Park, which is in the middle of town, and they lived just right there by it. And she'd always let us use her hose in the backyard and get a sip of water. She always had cookies ready for you. She's just great people.
So you made it out of the drinking out of the hose era.
Yep.
It might have been the era right after you where they refused to drink that water.
Yeah, no, we made it through that. We're good.
You don't have any allergies from it or anything other than you won't eat square pizza or something.
Yeah, it might have messed with my eating habits, but otherwise we're good.
Maybe that's what it is. That water caused those problems.
Dennis done his growth.
So,
Yep.
But yeah, that's this is the first year we're having 9-10. It's 9-10 and then 7th and 8th to get combined, and then we have an 11th, 12th one they do earlier in the year, and we had some kids that qualified for nationals a couple years ago for that. But yeah, it's just a fun time for the kids to meet kids from all around, and then we're also creating meal packs. One will have rice and beans, and the other one will have mac and cheese. And our goal is to make 60,000 meal packs throughout all the kids that are there that day, and then we get to take a portion of them back here to Red Oak and give to. I'm guessing we'll just get the food pantry, and they'd be able to disperse them as needed. But that's kind of what I jags about, giving back and teaching these kids to be leaders and good people.
People helping people.
Yes, that's and building championship people. Stole that from Coach Graham Lunt from Gilbert, so shout out to him. Gotta give credits due. That's what Danny was talking. Danny O'Neill, we were talking on the Mexican back and forth. And he told me he stole speed, aggression, and swagger. I was like, hey, that's a good line. He's stealing it for their defense. He coaches out in Alaska. I was like, I stole from Mitch Moore at Iowa City. So I mean, that's what coaches do. I'm sure baseball is the same way. You guys. You see somebody do something, you're like, I like that. I'm gonna steal that.
There's not much new anymore.
No.
Everybody's done everything, and you kind of just take what's going to work for you.
Yep. Every offseason, I try and recreate the wheel for defensive football, and I'm like, offensive guys can just go out there and do what the hell they want. So, like, we can't. So it's a little different. But, yeah, it's all stolen. So let's get to a few topics here today. The very first topic we got to get off our chest. I mean, we are Cherry Coke with Coach, and I guarantee this gentleman to my right has Pepsi in that cup. Coke versus Pepsi. We obviously have the votes on this side of the table. So Kipley, we're just going to put you on the spot. Which one of us is jumping you later? Is it Coke or is it Pepsi?
Oh, was been more of a Pepsi guy than
Oh, dude. Elbow drop after the cast. Elbow drop.
You ask Mr. Kipley, when he's at college and there's other beverages involved, and then you're mixing things, then it's probably more of a Coke guy.
It's like grenadine and Coke, right?
Yeah, the grenadine and Coke, or some sailors who I got to know. But it's more of the Pepsi company. Like I was always a Mountain Dew guy before any of them.
Mm.
So PepsiCo owned a Mountain Dew, so I was just
Kind of Pepsi.
helping the family out, keeping it a Pepsi family.
So what's Pepsi? Why Pepsi? Or do you drink Coke?
I do. I drink Coke. Actually, I'm a big fountain guy. I
am too.
I'm not a huge.
But no ice
bottle.
for you.
Yeah, I don't get ice. That's a thing that I just won't get.
See, I'll go fill my cup up completely with ice, and then whatever soda I can get in there is good enough.
Yeah, that's not me. But I'll go like Pepsi. If Pepsi is not looking great, if it's fuzzy or whatever, I'll dump it out and go for like a wild cherry Pepsi. If it's not great, then I'll go to Coke.
Yeah.
Coke's usually my third option. And then if they don't have it, I just go somewhere else because they gotta have either one of those things. So,
Yeah, I'm not getting anything else. Like root beer is horrible. I can't stand root beer or anything like that.
Dr. Pepper, I'm not a huge fan of. So
I used to drink a lot of Dr. Pepper. I make the joke that it has too many flavors now. So 23 is too many.
Yeah.
Was it just something you grew up drinking?
not really. I mean, we drank a lot of pop. My grandparents, I spent a lot of weekends with them, and they always had Diet Coke. And so I probably just assumed that and didn't really like that. So I switched to a Pepsi. But I don't know. It's just something that's stuck with me, and now it's what I can taste, and I can. A lot of people say they can't even tell the difference. I can tell the difference.
I
between Pepsi and
can
Coke.
absolutely.
There's a difference.
Yeah, I can definitely tell. Because I'd say cherry Coke, cherry Pepsi, and then it's going to be Coke Pepsi. But on some days, like the nice hot summer day, and you can crack a cold Pepsi or Coke. I mean, if it's chilled to the right temperature, if the mountains on the side are blue, Coors used to have those. It kind of hits the spot.
See, and I'm not even one that drinks it cold. I drink it room temperature.
That's crazy.
I will leave a bottle in my car during baseball, and I'll go out, and the first thing I do is take a drink of it when I'm in my car, and it's almost boiling hot. And
just it hits the spot for you.
Body doesn't have to work. It's hard to cool it down.
See, that's I got mine's ice cold, and I mean I'll have this all day and have one soda in there all day. It kind of gets watered down, and I'll drink it and finish throughout the day. But yeah, I've got to have ice, and it's got to be cold. It's just I don't know if I could drink. I've drank warm soda. The one that doesn't taste good warm is Sprite.
yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
It's wrong, you know. But at least you're not like having a gallon of milk sitting in the dugout drinking that all. You're almost as crazy as those two, but
Yeah, almost.
You're borderline. You're getting there.
Yeah, almost as crazy, but not that.
I think, I think the two things people recognize me and you for are your Pepsi and my cherry Coke. You always have a Casey's cup, and I always have my blue beat up tumbler thing that's wobbly. And don't buy me a Stanley. I will not drink out of a Stanley. These things are crazy. I paid $5 for this. Drove down to Alabama. The ice it melted like that much. Like, so what do I need this fancy Stanley for, and paid $60 for it for the words on the side of it?
Yeah.
I just no. Well, be ready for some cherry Coke with Coke swag. Maybe have a nice logo on here.
Get some stickers.
Yeah, get some stickers made and slap that on there. But yeah, I figure we better get that out of the way. But also, pop or soda?
It's pop.
It's soda. It's soda. It's soda.
It's pop.
We're all from the Midwest. I don't know if I grew up with pop. I think it was one of those things where it was like anti society, where I got to be like, nope, it's soda. It's soda. Because I say aunt instead of aunt. Do you say aunt or aunt?
And
Yeah, see, so I think it's my anti-social society.
If it starts with like an A, like Amy, I'll go Aunt Amy, because sometimes it's easier to say Aunt Amy than Aunt Amy.
Okay, so he's a little bilingual. Tristan over
It's just
here.
ant.
It's like it's Aunt Sue. It's not Aunt Sue, it's Aunt Sue.
Yeah,
I'm just weird too. Crick and Creek.
Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
Creek.
creek is out in the country, a creek is in town. Same body of water, but that's how I make my difference.
That's how you can.
If the dish went through town, it's a creek when it's 2 miles out of town, or it's a crick when it's 2 miles out of town. But it's a creek.
Yeah. Well, in football, it's a sniffer or it's a wing. I mean, he's either sniffing butt or he's hanging outside on the wing. You know, it's they're two different things. Tomato, I guess, right?
Caramel.
Caramel. It's caramel. All right, caramel. We can agree on one. There we go. We can move on. I'm gonna jump around here. We're gonna get into. So I would say Coach Johnson's gonna start his second year as a girls basketball coach at Red Oak. That's the first in a few years since Coach.
Martinez probably.
What was Gelber?
was here.
Was Gilbert 2 years?
2 years?
Yeah, she might have been here 2 years.
Three.
3 years.
Okay.
So you're creeping up
Three
on
as
that.
head coach then.
Yeah.
You had kind of a little surge. I know we've talked in the past. You know, me and you kind of have a similar take on. We like to win.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a-
winning is important, but you got to be able to see the bright side of the girls basketball program last year. Took some big strides. I'd say, from an outsider's view, you could see the development of the girls. Biggest thing is like press. I mean, being able to break a press, even press a team by the end of the year. But that's the biggest thing I think is the details were worked on. So going into year two, you know, like I just said, the details were kind of worked on that first year. Do you feel like you can move past those, getting into the detail work, or is there still some work to do there? What's kind of your not expectations. What's your next steps for the girls basketball program?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of it will be detailed still because we have a huge turnover. I mean, we had 13 girls out and we lost 7. So we're starting over, but we've got a few that have said they're going back out. They think they liked what they saw, and sometimes it takes a little trust. It's hard to, when you have turnover, it's hard to trust that that coach is going to stick around and you're not going to learn something new. So we're going to have to still be a little detailed, but it probably isn't as much for me in thinking that we can't press. Going into the last year, there's no way it's at the start of the year that I thought we would ever press. We didn't have the girls, we didn't have the right. And Carter, luckily, kept talking about it. Coach Carter, he kept talking about let's throw it in, and we threw it in, and it went way better than we expected, and it just was something that we stuck with, and I think the other girls will pick up on it. We got a few returning that'll help us out, and we're going to be young, but we got some talent coming up in the younger grades. We got a few out of the 8th grade class that'll be freshmen next year that'll help us tremendously with some speed. You got 3 in the 7th grade class that have played a lot of basketball. I think they've got like 5 out right now that they've played, but 3 of them have really played a lot. And then I think they said at the activity fair the other day we had 20 6th graders sign up. So if we can keep solid. At least half of those out, we will. You'll see a big growth, I think.
What number? Like I always say for football at a school our size, because we're 1A for football. What are you guys 3A? 2A.
Yeah, we're 3A girls basketball,
which has 5 classes.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how they can't line this stuff up. But anyways, I always say 15 kids per grade. They can shoot 60 in a 9 through 12 program, and that's good numbers to have. We've been lucky. We've had 12, 15. I had 8, 12, 15, and now I think we're about 10. There's talk of some kids coming out that might bump that up to 13, but let's see what shakes out. But girls basketball, I'm guessing boys would be the same way. What would be the ideal number per grade, you think?
I think if you get anywhere between 7 and 8 out of each grade, you're going to be really solid.
You're looking about 32 for the program.
Yeah, I think their freshman year you want to see around 15 probably their freshman year, and then naturally you're going to drop a few here and there, and they'll get down to probably about 7 by their senior year. I think when you're at 7 at your senior year, you're going to be pretty strong, whether it's the 5 that are starting, and you got 2 that are, maybe more a practice player and rotation people, but the more they're there, the longer they're going to push your team, and the better you have of having older kids there, being able to push your team a little more.
Well, then you don't got freshmen coming and playing varsity. I mean, it seems more in girls sports that younger girls are playing a little sooner than they do in boys. But you can actually have a freshman team, a JV team, and they don't have to take their lumps in a varsity game and say, well, I'm not going out my sophomore year because I'm just getting beat up. Because you guys play in the same conference the boys do.
Yep.
There's a big difference. Do you think the difference in girls sports in the Hawkeye 10 is different than the boys, or do you think it's comparable?
I think it's a little different. I don't think it's nearly as competitive every night. You definitely have your top teams and you have your lower end teams usually. I think it's getting a little more closer to being able to be a little more challenging for each team. You still got to play every game. It's tough, but there's a bigger gap between the big top teams than there is the small teams. I think whereas in the boys, anybody can beat anybody on any night. You have your tough teams, but
the girls, you just have those ones that are just the dogs, and the other ones just stay on the porch.
Yeah, you've got the ones that are really good, and then you've got some that are just not there yet, and whether that's the turnover where coaching players not going out, whatever it is, but.
Who was it, Glenwood last year? I mean, you put the fear of God in, I think it was Glenwood. You guys kind of pressed them a little bit and kind of got a little bit of a lead, and their coach was getting worked up over there. And that was kind of where that turning point for me was like, wow, these girls are figuring it out, and they're trusting the process.
Yep.
I mean, because I know you've talked about it's detail, and I'm sure Dale and Carter are the same way. It's always nice having those coaches, assistants poke you enough to, you're like, fine, we'll do this.
Yeah, it's nice. Carter's a little more. He's a little
fiery.
more new school. Yeah, he's fiery. He gets after it. Dale's a little more old school, but they work great. Like they both bring great things to the table, and the girls actually they probably like Dale the best because he dances around and gets them going a little energy. They don't like his practice stuff because he makes them take off their Apple Watches, and they don't like that in practice. But it's a good thing.
It's the Dale Indy of basketball, and it's. I mean, you got Carter. You kind of got that different kind of energy, a little bit younger than you are. But then you got Dale, who he's a ref.
Yep.
I mean, that's beneficial because he can be in your ear like, hey, like. This. He could give you little tricks, really, like ref's not really looking for this or that.
Yeah, he definitely helps with that, but it's a little more challenging with him on the bench as a ref because when a ref isn't calling things the right way, he gets a little more animated and gotta settle him down a little bit. But
I know one game Carter got up and he was pretty animated, and the ref let him know, hey. You can sit down. Let Coach Johnson take care of it. But I, as a basketball coach, I had one when I was junior high. I was very animated, but I had two assistants, and they were the same way. And refs did the same thing. And I'm like, I'd rather have them be like that because I can't see everything. Even though there's only 5 people on the court, there's probably a lot to watch. It's still a faster game at the high school level compared to girls too.
Yeah, it's definitely faster.
See, I could help with like free throw technique, and that's all you want me coaching. I'll stick to playing music and shutting off the lights for the intros. I know my role during basketball season.
You got that playlist down, Is it a pre? Do the girls make it for them, or do you kind of?
The pregame stuff, the teams have an input.
Yeah.
Timeouts and halftime.
You take care of that because you got to have the band and.
When the band can make it, then it's just, are you ready? Okay, no. Well, they're doing a cheer. Okay, we'll play it in the background. Okay, cheer's done. Turn it back up.
Nothing beats a Friday night at a high school basketball game. They got a pep band there. Not taking away from your DJ ability, but I mean just the sound of a pep band. Even if they're not good. Not saying Red Oaks is bad because Red Oaks is amazing.
Yeah.
It just brings a different atmosphere to a gym.
That's what I've always said about everything. Even like football, a lot of times the band would leave at halftime, and it's such a difference of noise and element that like from first half to second half. And I know like the pep band sometimes leaves for the boys game. Luckily for the girls when they play, they're the whole game. They're playing. And you just have a lot more energy, I think, from them being there. You got a few more fans in the stand. You got a little more noise.
I know the last 2 years the band stayed for the whole game for football, which is pretty cool because then they play between plays and stuff. And like you said, it just brings a different atmosphere to a high school sporting event.
Just going on the road to Missouri Valley. I feel like it was their homecoming, but they didn't have much of a band. It was just like, this is different. They did the national anthem from the stands instead of on the field.
It was just weird.
It was a different vibe, so yeah.
It actually brings up the energy, I think. The kids might not realize it, but a good band can pump you up. I remember we were sitting there in Greene County when I was at Ballard, and me and Coach Christian and Coach Vespestead were sitting on line defense, and it was just that bad of a performance. The band director was out in like a Jedi. They were doing like Star Wars, and she was like in the full costume. They had other teachers with like Yoda costumes and stuff, and I was like, but it was like 10 kids. They didn't have enough instruments, and it just didn't sound right because they were missing stuff. But a good, solid marching band just hits the spot. And I'm trying to get. I think in the future I want a tunnel. I want us to run through a band tunnel, but that kind of screws them up for lining up for their walkout. But maybe there's something we can do to talk to Mr. Elberly and see if we can get that taken care of.
It's like the pep band with their school our size at the basketball games at least. Well, that's right in the middle of musical practice, or that's a lot of the same kids. So there's multiple sport athletes. There's kids are just busy with tons of stuff. Because I know he would have loved to do more.
Yeah.
But there was just so much conflict of, well, if we can only get 10 kids there, we want to do a good job and make it look good and sound good.
I know I used to let old Griffin Eubank and my boy Caden Ribby leave a little early from bowling, so they get over there to toot some horns and bang out some drums. And I think Griff plays the guitar too.
Sounds right.
I think the electric guitar, and that's always fun. You got one of those kids in there because I mean you can get it shredding. I don't know the proper lingo for band, but I know it's
slap the bass.
Yeah, slap at the bass. I know the question I was going to ask is it's something interesting I saw in Minnesota. When my cousins played in Minnesota, eighth graders could play varsity basketball. So Matthew and Michael Hurt, one went to Minnesota, the other one went to Duke. I saw him, Matthew, when he was in eighth grade, and most polished basketball player I've ever seen, and he was an eighth grader. It was amazing to watch. No wonder he went to Duke. Funny story with that. His brother was going for his thousandth point, and my cousin blocked his shot, and then kind of taunted him. And then the next times down, Hurt took care of my cousin. But my cousin Cooper is a great basketball player too. It's just you got a kid going D1 to Minnesota and one going to Duke. They had 6 guys going D1 on that same team. It was Minnesota John Marshall. Great program, all a traditional program. But the thing I was going to ask you was they do this in Minnesota. So if the first game, let's say Shan, we're playing at Red Oak, it's girls first, boys second. Then when they play at Shan, it's going to be boys first, girls second. Would that be something that would interest you as a girls basketball coach to have that switch and have the ability to be the finale instead of the opener all the time?
It would. I think it would help bring more people to the stands, keep people in it. We got great fans in Red Oak. It just sometimes with the way that the work life, feeding kids at home, it sometimes feels like we're a little light on the girls' side. Mm-hmm. With fans, it's usually parents and the few regulars like Vern and Sandy Olson, those guys. And then
Vern's got to sing.
Yeah, Vern's got to sing. He does a great job. Then you get a few more for the boys' game. They get there, and some of that's excitement too. We've had an exciting boys' run the last few years, and the girls have kind of been down the last few years. So hopefully that'll bring a few more people back in. But I think it'd be a nice change to do that. It'd be interesting for the girls. They definitely play in front of a few more fans, I think, if it was a little later.
Yeah, bring the energy up. Because you guys, Red Oak girls basketball is only a handful of years out from a state appearance. Yep. So it's not out of the question to see the trajectory go up in a drastic rate. Because if you're only that far away, there's kids that saw that as youngsters that probably played basketball that next year like it was the greatest sport ever. So you just got to carry that, and just like football, right? You need the younger ones to might be a bumps and bruises for a few years.
You get that Caitlin Clark effect.
Yeah, you got to find that one girl, right?
And I will say I've probably got the best youth coaches. We have like Beth Rabine. She's used to be Beth Bruce, graduated from Red Oak, was a classmate of mine. She's now with like the 3rd and 2nd graders. She's teaching them. We've got several others that have just been around the program a long time, and they're in the right places, and they're going to feed those kids to stay out. We're doing something different this year in open gyms and getting a little 3rd through 6th grade going on in one, and it's been pushed by them mostly to get just a little more activity, a little more involvement with us being with them. Mm-hmm. And I think you'll see a little more turnaround if, when we get the time frame where we get these girls up here, you'll see a big turnaround, which will be nice.
So what's your summer plans then? What do you guys do during the summer because you're a pretty busy man?
Yeah,
with baseball and
you got baseball. Luckily,
football.
Luckily, the assistants will take care of some of it when I'm busy with freshman baseball or practice or whatever. We go Monday and Thursday is high school. Like we'll go 7th grade through 12th grade. Get the junior high girls in there just to give us a few more bodies. It'll be just us. Either one day will be mostly skills and drills and focusing on dribbling, shooting, everything. One's a little more 5-on-5 scrimmage, get up and down the court. And then on Tuesdays in June, we actually are going to host the league here. We got to find the 4th team, but right now it'll be like hopefully us, Essex, and Griswold, and then hopefully a 4th team. And they're all going to come. We'll play 2 20-minute running clock scrimmages, and you just play, and then you switch teams, and it'll be a rotation. Robin. Every Tuesday you'll play a new team, or
nice.
You'll go back. And,
always here, or will you guys travel around?
Nope, always here. We did it last year at Riverside, and I just think we'll have more success with it if we can host it.
It could be. With the facilities we have here for basketball, we've got 2 big gyms. If really needed, you go over to Inman and use their gym. But be able to host some kind of summer
down the year, I want to get a junior high one started so we'd run the 2 full courts in the orange gym and then run one in the black gym with the
Oh yeah, because
junior
you
high.
you could split that. The orange gym's big enough
Yeah,
to split that.
it's two full size courts. It's just that that's a little space in between the two courts, but
Yeah,
it's two full size courts, and we could have two full games,
Get
and then
running.
one in the black gym, and
yeah.
have a bunch of teams here. It just would be a fun time. And then Sunday nights, we may have to change the time since I saw football's going Sunday nights now too.
Well, that's offensive day, anyways.
Oh yeah, I don't think we'd have rather. But we're gonna go 3rd through 6th grade and just nothing but drills and play a few games and.
Would say your assistants could handle that too, but I think they're all.
Yeah, they're all football too. So,
too.
yeah.
I stole those guys for football.
And one of them is going to be an offensive guy. So.
Yeah, so he'll need to be there that day. The other, Dale's not a
Dale's
defensive
not,
guy.
so we're
He's a
good there.
defensive guy,
Yeah,
so you can send him over. You two can handle that. You both, well, freaking all three of us are coaching. I think 3 sports. You got three seasons. So it's good what for the kids. I always say it's good to see other people talk to them, but they get that continual solid coaching from people. It pays off. So yeah, girls basketball. Make sure keep your eye on them. I'm sure we'll talk about them this winter. I know me and Kip will have a lot more time then, so the busyness is slowing down, but it's going to ramp back up here shortly. The other sports you guys both, so we can get Kipley more involved in this topic, maybe next week or so we can get Coach Erickson on here too, get his take, because he's a pretty busy man right now with all the track and,
Yeah, if we can
baseball.
get spring sports done, then Erickson will
Yes, that's
be able
my
to take
point.
a breath. And,
Yeah, let him get a week where he can see straight. But baseball season, you guys, a week deep basically. You guys,
week away.
a week deep, but then you're a week away from games. Kind of crazy because they overlap track and. First of all, I guess we'll start here. I'm all over the place. Do you think it's going spring? Iowa's the last state, correct?
Yeah, Iowa's the last state. I don't think it will go spring because of, I think, too many people are still involved in the track. Drake relays is a huge thing. The Blue Oval. I think we have such a high track
just having the Drake relays in Iowa.
Yeah, I think it's just such a track mentality that I don't think baseball would go there because I think it would. I think in most people's eyes it would hurt track in the long run. I think more kids would go out for baseball instead of track just because, hey, I don't have to go run a bunch. Those kids that
I can
aren't
run a hard
track,
90.
like, we can go out for baseball. We're still competing. We're still playing our 3-4 sports.
Yep.
And I don't have to run all that much. So I think some of them would go out for baseball more than track, so I don't think it would go spring. I think if anything it would go fall, and I don't know what that would.
I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, you would lose kids to football.
yeah,
Probably
that'd be a
some to
hard.
football to baseball, but
That'd be a hard
It's a hard pull either way. And
Yeah.
I just don't know.
I don't think it'd be hard to do the full season in spring, but I can see him trying to shift it earlier.
Start
So
lower.
maybe your state baseball instead of 3rd week of July, now it's 1st week of July, or
the week after 4th.
which you're still gonna have all your conflicts in the spring, so you're pretty much gonna be starting games during even more with track and whatnot. Because right now it's like state track is the first week of
Yeah, because I think your
the
first
baseball season.
game's the 17th
Like next Tuesday, like
next Tuesday. So you guys, you play Tuesday. I think you
14.
do. You have a game that on Thursday, Friday too.
So the first possible day is the 13th.
Yeah. So you get 2 weeks of technical practice, and that's why they give you the spring because you get a dozen contact days with them.
Yep.
Not including the pitchers and catchers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at a 1A in Iowa, everybody's a pitcher.
Yeah, your 4A schools and like Labarda and Johnston, they're gonna have their whole team there because it's the only.
Only thing
There's
they
probably
do.
a couple studs that
Yeah.
do multiple sports.
But they're probably 2 sporters. They're probably
Yeah.
football, baseball, basketball, football, or basketball, baseball. I mean, when you get to that level, you might have a kid at every school that does every sport and excels in it. You might have a handful of kids that do every sport and they're just there to participate.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
but
we do our Sunday stuff kind of once the new year starts. We'll kind of say, hey, Sundays for a couple hours, a couple shifts, and make it when you can.
yep.
And then we've had a couple
I don't-
during the week, but
And we've always, I mean, with track practice, they get done with track, and I mean, the baseball field's right there, so the kids go, they're all stretched out, ready for you.
But
to
tennis
run
is
around.
decently close.
Yep, so I mean, it's,
But the
'cause
golf
you guys
course
start
is nowhere close.
5 o'clock? Baseball practice?
4:30.
4:30. So, and then we go track 3:30 to 4:30. But, I mean, track practice, 50 minutes tops. Stretch them out and get them out of there.
Feeding the cats, not burning sticks.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Kids
We're not
are like, can I go to baseball now? I'm like, are you prepared? Okay, then yes.
Yes, and the worst is they'll do their workout and then they're like, I'm ready to go to baseball. It's like, no, you need to stretch out first and then get over there. I don't want you running a hard 90 and missing half the baseball season and the rest of track.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I that kind of intrigues me because I mean, Iowa's the last state. Illinois does it. I mean, Minnesota does it. The weather is really, I'm sure it affects it some way. It probably takes a little pop out of bats. You know, get as many. I mean, not that Red Oak is a dinger school. Brody Bond did tell me that he hits nukes, so you guys better expect that from Brody. I mean, he has spent a lot of time in the weight room, so he could be sitting there.
He's definitely added a lot of pop to his hits this year.
And that contact. We don't need to hit dingers. We just need to hit gaps and you guys. Mark's kind of a. I mean, like I said, we'll talk to him, but kind of a small ball. Because you guys really, I mean, never really, since I've been here, had the true power hitters.
Yeah.
You guys had guys that could gap it and use their speed.
Our last power hitter was probably Brock Spangenberg. I think and that was 04, so when he graduated. I think he had the title of hitting a home run in every park that he played in his high school career. He hit at least one. But
You
that was
played
also,
some big parks.
yeah.
Like Clarinda, that's a
Well, and ours was when we played.
straight away. I
when
mean, it
we
looks
played,
deep.
Ours was 393 down dead center. We moved the fences in Erickson's first year.
But then that was from the semi-pro days.
Yep.
Because you guys had semi-pro
Yeah,
here
we had
for
Red Oak Red Sox here.
how long was that here?
Pretty much all of the 90s. It ended probably a little earlier than that. Even I don't know when it started. I know when I was young we had it, and I watched all the time. We had kids stay at my grandparents' house, and I loved it. But
Because what is it? Ozzie Smith? Did he play over in Clarinda?
he played at Clarinda.
See, that's crazy. I forgot to put him on the list.
We'll get to one that played here on our top 5.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that leads into the Hawkeye 10. So you guys lost decent amount of kids. Great. I mean, that class last year was good at everything.
Yeah.
Very, very, very talented group of kids. What's the preview look like for Red Oak and the Hawkeye 10?
For Red Oak, it's going to sound crazy because 6 of them started at least 3 years probably, and just the number of innings pitched and at bats that they all have, like you feel like it almost feels like we got deeper, even though we're losing so much, because we've had the kids coming up now have played so much baseball when they're younger. It doesn't feel like we're taking that step back. That they've played plenty, and they got a good baseball IQ. So it feels like we maybe are stretched and a little deeper. We're just maybe don't have that varsity level experience. Let me say, and like you're not going to be when you lose a Dawson Bond at the mound and on the plate, and AJ Schmidt at the plate or on the mound. No offense, AJ, but you're not going to be as dynamic.
Yeah.
You don't have the shutdown horse, the first team, all Hawkeye 10 ace, but we might be more confident that our 7th guy in the rotation is going to be capable of throwing strikes now. So
It's instead of relying on one arm to go 7, you can go 2 or 3 arms to go to get the job done.
yep.
Yeah.
And in the Hawkeye 10, your big schools you got a D1 player in Glenwood. You're going to have 5 kids go play college baseball from LC. Denison and Kemper.
And you always get
gonna
stuck
have
playing
players.
double headers against those guys.
Yep.
Which you guys play 4 games a week, 4 dates a week. One's a double header, so that turns into 5 games a week. And is that the toughest part? You think pitching at a school like Red Oak?
Yeah, easily the toughest.
If you guys had 3 more pitchers, kids that not saying top level, collegiate pitchers, but just a solid high school pitcher throwing it 75, maybe topping out of this 80 when he's feeling that frisky that day. Just getting a few more of those guys to get the job done.
That's definitely the toughest part. some of our kids that get varsity suits after the season starts, it's because they can throw strikes, and it might not be the best pitcher, but they're going to throw strikes, and we can throw them out there versus LC when we're down 10 and say, hey, sorry, you got to take this lump and you got to go get us some outs somehow. Just put it across the plate and let them hit it, and we'll either end it by runs or we're going to get outs. And
it teaches the kid like selflessness, because I mean, you're not worrying about your ERA. You're worrying about, hey, I'm facing pretty good competition right here. You know, I can learn from these situations. Kind of like we talk about in every other sport. Like you might be learning at this point to try and get better for the future.
Yeah, I think Adam Beyer said it the best. It's finally his year that he doesn't have to throw against an LC. he's thrown against them
He was
every
a sacrificial
year, 8th
lamb.
grade, 9th grade,
But
10th grade.
He's never been the 1 or 2 because there's.
But he's not a kid that's
above
going to complain about it. He's the
Yeah.
type of kid. It's actually kind of perfect to have a kid like that, because the competitor in him is going to go out there and give it everything he's got.
He's never complained. He's went out and he's thrown everything he could.
He
but
probably
he's
talks
just excited.
mad crap before he goes out there. I'm sure he lets you two know what he's thinking about his.
He definitely knows. He actually came back tonight for practice and he became the umpire because he was still sore from wrestling and he hadn't stretched out or anything. So he became the umpire, and he said he couldn't see everything, and I was like, man, you finally admitted something that you weren't the best at.
We should talk to him about some wiffle ball open then. Huh?
He threatened to throw me out of practice.
Came up. There was one back to the net, and we didn't have a true catcher. There was just standing back there, and I don't know if he caught it off the net. I'm like, that's an out and wiffle ball, right? Right at him.
Oh, and he probably went haywire.
He's like, heck no. He might not have said it that nicely.
That's great. Let's jump gears. You made a good point right there. I had it wrote down. We just skipped right over it. Kyler and Adam wrestled.
Yep.
This weekend.
And Josie.
And Josie. Anybody get any details how they did?
Adam got 4th in Greco. Is that?
It'll be Greco. Yeah, Greco
freestyle.
and then freestyle. Yeah.
Freestyle. He got.
I know that's not
5th.
his.
Yeah, he got 5th, I think, or 6th. He said that he had to go against the kid that won it, like, second round, and he lost, and then he lost to a kid that, got upset, and it was, like, the number 2 seed or whatever, so he didn't get that, but he did get 4th and qualified for nationals in Greco. I don't think Kyler qualified. I'm not.
It's not his.
Sure.
He's more of a folk style.
Yeah, I don't think he did, and I don't think Josie did, but I could be wrong on that. I just was looking on Twitter a little bit on it.
I had seen Coach Pondliska was sharing, and I kind of tried to follow along, because our own Dawson Bond wrestled in Vegas a couple weeks ago for an open NCAA tournament. I kind of talked to him afterwards, asked him how he went. He said it was good, and it was a good learning experience. He said he was sitting there stretching. He looked to his left, and Cale Sanderson was just sitting right next to him. He was just like, it was a who's who of coaches. And said the Grandview coach coached him. I was there because nobody else from Iowa Western went. And he's been getting contacted to say, hey, we could use you over Grandview. But
There's a connection there.
yeah, oh yeah. And then I know Adam, I was golfing with Coach Ruskell, one of our assistant wrestling coaches. He had said that Adam ran out of gas against the kid, his first loss, and he should have beat him. And then the kid ended up getting second.
Yeah.
And Adam, I talked to him in the hallway Thursday, and he said that's the one thing he worried about was his endurance. And we've seen it on football. I mean, every sport works that kid to death, and I mean he's a great asset to have. I've already been talking about football that we cannot kill this kid because he's just an amazing athlete.
I know he was struggling this week cutting weight. He probably not using the best mentality to cut weight right now just because he's not in the wrestling season. He's been more baseball, getting ready for football.
Well, energy level's got to be going out because he's lifting more. He's like you said, baseball, football drills. Your endurance is
so I think he's lost a little bit with that, and hopefully moving forward he can get back into the.
I need to watch him in Greco and freestyle because his folk style just drives me nuts. Like 2-1, triple overtime, sudden death. So let's get back on baseball. I want to make sure we recognize Kyler and Adam and Josie because those three, they've been fighting hard in that wrestling room, and I know all of Red Oak is proud of what those kids are doing for the program and for the school. So back to so what do we
We're talking Hawkeye 10 baseball.
yeah, Hawkeye 10. Red Oak, we got some, not like you're saying, not young, but experienced.
Yep.
Pitching, we talked pitching. We kind of talked about how they were a little small ball. What do we return? I heard Brett Erickson is cleared. Is he cleared to play yet?
Yep,
Fully cleared.
fully cleared.
So that's bigger news than just him playing baseball.
Yeah,
that's
It's good life news.
yeah,
huge
absolutely.
mentality boost
Oh, yeah.
for him, everything. So
I can imagine. I mean, I was injured in high school, but it wasn't anything that was like waiting for clearance to play. Just having that, and especially a competitive kid like that that's played since 8th grade.
yep.
I mean, and
Yeah,
just
he's been a varsity player since then.
thrown 2 no-hitters and had a huge clutch hit last year in a game. Did he have a walk-off base hit or something like that?
Nope. I couldn't tell you which game, but I know you.
Yeah,
I
there was
remember the
one,
little.
yeah.
I was probably flipping burgers or cleaning
He
the
had-
grill.
He had a walk off on one of the games.
Yeah.
I think he'd been struggling a little bit before that.
Yes, I
But then
agree. I think it was like a
so-
big clutch hit because I remember talking to Coach Erickson about it, and he had said that it was a kind of like a relief for Brett altogether because it was like getting over a hump.
Yep.
Kind of like Adam, he smoked the crap out of the ball at the beginning of last year, and he hit that little wall for a little bit. And, does that happen a lot for high school kids? Do you think it's like the talent, or do you think it's true? I mean, baseball slumps, highs and lows, but it is a pretty talented conference we talk about for every sport. Do you think that has more to do with kind of the slumps, or do you think it's just the hiccups?
I think it's just the hiccups. I think a lot of kids, they think it's either the bat or it's this little tweak in my stance that I've changed helped me hit better or makes me worse, or they think too much and it's
That umpire strike zone was.
Too tight.
Some of that. I think some of them just need to like forget everything and just go back to basics.
Yeah.
I know when I like my junior year, I hit like 200, below 200. I was not a good hitter. My senior year, I didn't change anything. I went to a Creighton camp and they made me focus on like my load, my step, just basic stuff, and I just stopped thinking and just started swinging, and I hit like 330 something my senior year. So I think a lot of times we just think too much, and I think some of it is you see some tougher kids, and it always seems like Lewis Central's pitching rotation always ends up with their ace thrown against us, and it's like, what are you doing? Like you got other teams to worry
Like,
about.
yeah.
Like, come on.
It's almost a mentality thing.
Yeah.
It's that mental warfare that they got to. I mean, you got. I always say mental aspect is the biggest thing of any sport. In baseball, hitting a baseball consistently is probably the toughest thing in sports.
Yeah.
Especially when you got a strike zone. Like I'm assuming you're talking about Weinrich. His strike zones. No. No.
His freshman ones, we'll take. We'll take
No.
all night long.
Weinrich,
His
he's
freshman
the AD of the Shan, so we gotta poke fun at the Shan
one. Yeah, we'll
folks.
take his freshman one. Keep coming freshman.
Dude.
And the Hawkeye 10 is just kind of weird. Like, you're maybe smaller schools. Baseball's that one sport, like, they have a tradition. Kemper, big tradition in baseball. Clarendon, big tradition in baseball. St. Albert's, smaller school, but they always seem to have solid baseball. So, like, maybe Shenandoah might be your weakest tradition, but they got, obviously,
And they're
some
young
athletes
over
coming
there.
through, so
And then the Duke's
They're
kid.
young and-
I mean, what's he
Yeah.
started since 8th grade?
Yeah, Dukes is really good, and they've got a lot of young kids that have played a lot of sports.
Because their whole they were a team kind of like you guys were a couple years ago, where it was one senior.
Yeah, they
and they're
returned
just-
about everybody.
Yeah, they're returning everybody kind of like their basketball program. I mean, they're a young program over there.
there's not going to be an easy night in the Hawkeye 10, so. Then you had, all the schools just naturally bigger than you and more of a talent pool to pick from, but your smaller schools seem to have a baseball tradition too, so.
Yeah, I mean, every team you really named off there were the smaller schools. I mean, Kemper's they're 2A, and we're 2A in baseball, correct?
Yep.
So we would, and Kemper, they get to play there in Mega State. It's just a home game for them.
Yep.
That is a wonderful. Is that the best stadium you guys play in for unless you go to Sec Taylor or what is it now? Principal
Park.
or the iCubs play.
Yeah, that's definitely the best field you'll play on. Best atmosphere. Just looks more like a small minor league stadium.
It is
and
cool, like
it's-
even watching a game there.
Yeah,
just the layout and how you sit in there,
The dugouts.
and it's covered.
Yeah,
it's covered.
The concessions are underneath.
Yeah.
You get the walk up a ramp into the stadium. The field's always immaculate.
I always love those.
Dugouts are actually down on the ground.
The dugout. That's what I love those kind of dugouts. We played in a few. I got to coach a couple of my 8th grade games when I was at Ames, and it just makes you feel like you're in a true baseball stadium in a park.
If there was one thing I would change about it, I would make the dugouts a little more like they're dug out and underneath, but when you're watching from the dugout, it's hard to see because there's no ledge there to stand. Like you either got to stand way up on top of it and be way above the fence, or there's not really a great like viewing area in the dugout.
Also, Tristan will be on one side, or like two coaches are on the dugout because you don't want to stand down there. We'll throw that part. Like you're used to standing anywhere in the dugout.
Yep.
And you got to almost pick a side. Or
Well, you looking over at Carroll Kemper's dugout, and they got four coaches sitting on buckets outside, and another 6
Clear
over at the
out.
other side, because they have a lot of dad volunteers over there. I'm looking at when I was at Gilbert, I went over and watched them play Kemper, and just looking at the roster and the program, and a lot of names connect, which is good to have. I don't know, it's
and you have the Carroll. They call themselves Carroll Classics for a little bit, but Carroll Merchants. It's kind of their. I think they're in the same league as Clarendon A's.
Yeah.
So they have their semi-pro team and they get to play on that field. So it builds that baseball community. So
if
I coached JV at Carroll for a year, so it's like
because they share it with Carroll and Carroll
have,
Kemper.
Yep. So they share it, and that guy's there every morning. He's meticulous about it.
He's almost like Chris. Then.
Yep.
We got
So,
Chris here.
he's like a city employee, but that's what he's in charge of.
Like you're doing
Like
this.
he doesn't go to some park and mow that grass too. It's
like you take
like
care
you're
of
in charge of
this.
stadium. Like,
Yeah, because Chris Nosdale, he does a heck of a job on our facilities. I know we had that water problem at the football field this year, and he fixed it every day. He was down there fixing another line. I see him down there working on the baseball field, and I mean it's a well kept, manicured stadiums we have at the.
That's just at the stadiums plus all the other stuff.
That has to do.
He's doing.
That guy, I saw him the other day. He was out spraying. I was walking the dog about 10 o'clock, and he had a mask on, had the gator lights on, and just slowly working around. I'm like, give him a little wave, and he's just working man.
Yeah, I would say ours is definitely in the top half of the conference of nicest field we play on. Ours is pretty well.
And like any field, I mean, you got your little things you could always make a little better. But I would agree. I think it's one of the nicer stadiums I've seen, or baseball facilities. But yeah, the one thing I can't stand, in my high school, at least I didn't have it when I played. I didn't run the bases anyways. Who would kidding? Is the grass in first and third base lines. You guys might like it. It's something I don't. It's just aesthetically, it's not a baseball field to me. But I don't know. Is there? Do you think there's perks to having it like that, or I feel like you'd slip more?
The big thing for us is that where we sit in our field, the water level, there's so much water that collects between when you had it cut out, the water would sit between the grass. So there are days that you can't play because you're rained out because your base paths are too wet.
So it kind of takes away from that.
Now you get away from that a little bit. I'm a big proponent too. I like it cut out, but it's just you got more work. You also have to you edge it and make it so you start out with the right size, and then you're starting to edge it, and now your base paths are 8 foot instead of the 3 foot there, so there whatever it is. I think that's a big bonus to having the grass base paths.
Then you got to rake it out if it's dirt. And
Yeah,
do a new line where if it's just grass, you just repaint.
Just paint it. Yeah, I mean, there's got to be the benefits to it. But I think it's just me being a 41-year-old man that only played on cutout lines. I mean, stadiums I played on didn't even have grass infields in high school games. It just
we get a couple of those.
it's rough, but you can still those grass infields. You can still take some weird hops off of it. Do you guys play on any all turf fields? I know when I was at Ames, there's a couple.
We don't play on
Um,
softball does. Softball plays in or they used to. I don't know if they're still in it. They used to play at the AL tournament, and AL has a natural dirt field and a turf field. in their tournament. And you always get to play one game on both.
So you
It's-
experience it.
Yeah.
Have you guys done any research or experienced it? Like, is there a big difference in the type of play on it or ball? I'm guessing the ball's a little faster.
Yeah, just from the few years that I had coached on the softball, the ball is way faster. Your home plate isn't as nice because they dig that spot out and those spots just stay. You can't rake it. I mean, you can rake those black pebbles
yeah.
back into it, but it's not staying.
It's
So,
nothing like adding more clay in or
yeah,
dirt
you can't add
to
things,
resurface.
and the pitching mound's the pitching rubber's a little weirder, just because you get so much drug out. But the biggest thing I hated about it is that you weren't allowed to have sunflower seeds.
I would,
You
like
couldn't have
football
sunflower-
games.
you
I
couldn't
chew
have
sunflower
like
seeds.
peanuts.
Yeah.
You couldn't have that on the turf. You couldn't have.
That's not baseball.
Like it's weird.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to have that. And
Is it an actual mound there? Because I feel like you can't get that depth in the pitcher's mound that, because you want that push off. So you're almost pushing off a flat. It's almost like those movable mounds.
yeah,
in a
so
way.
I mean, with softball, you don't have the mound. You
That's
have
true.
just the pitching circle. So it was just different because pitchers push off of it, and so now you have this hole. The same thing
Oh,
there.
yeah,
You have
right
the hole
there,
there
yeah.
that you can't fix. You can't.
Yeah, there's no fixing it.
Yeah,
That makes
it's
sense,
just
yeah.
so it was weird that way. The ball was way faster, but it was also nice that when you hit a one hopper to the outfielder, it one hopped right to the outfielder. There
So
was no
more true.
Yeah, there was no bad hops. There was nothing like that. You just seemed to hit it a little harder every day there than you would
Nice.
normally.
Like in high school, we played at Storm Lake, so they shared it with BV, and the infield was turf, but you kind of had like the cutouts around the bases, so you were still sliding on kind of dirt type of things. I mean, this is 15 years ago, so it's been a while, but
'Cause I
you
think-
see that in some places. There's kind of
Half and
cutouts around
half.
the bases, and
I know
the mound could maybe still be dirt then.
OABCIG had some. They had like when we played football there a couple years ago. They had home plate was turf and pitcher's mound or something. They had a little bit of turf somewhere. I just
Yeah.
can't remember exactly.
And the other thing with softball was the bases. You slide into the base and the base moves because it's not anchored down. It's not so like, are you out? Are you safe? You're not on the base, but
Yeah.
you are. Like, so it was weird that way. There wasn't a true base. You were just
Yeah, I know they used those for when I coached junior high. Those pop up bases
yeah.
pissed me off. Like, and then they all never went in right.
Yeah,
And then
it's-
every throw back to first was you got to fix it. It just I think it caused. I mean safety. It probably helps with jamming ankles and wrists and stuff. But that brings up another point. Jamming wrists. You have the oven mitt now, right? What do you guys think of all these accessories kids wear? Do you think any of them are they're not necessity, but it's all for show, right?
I think a
I mean,
lot of
there's some protective aspect to them, but like, really, does a high school kid need to be wearing a sliding sleeve or anything like that?
No. I think certain people probably, was it Ronald Acuna, there's certain, the right guy had him in the pros, and he kind of caught wildfire, feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, maybe we're just too old school,
Old
fashioned.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even wear batting gloves when I was in high school.
I didn't.
So.
We used shaving cream, just put it on our hands for tack.
But I don't think it's, or they went to a camp and there's a rep
yeah.
there probably giving it out, or.
Because you see more kids with the elbow guards, the shin guards. Are they allowed to wear jewelry now in high school baseball?
They are.
Because I know just a few years ago they weren't allowed to.
No, and it's now if it's religious, they can wear it, and I think any necklace can be worn now as long as it's taped underneath.
Which never happens. They pop out all the
Yeah.
I
time.
remember we had an issue, was it nose ring?
Yeah, nose ring. We had an issue once with that.
So he's trying to take it out in the game, just like taped over it or something.
But it is the same thing with that. Is he kind of got a little upset because the umpire made him take it out. But it was one thing that we told you this could happen.
Yeah.
Some officials won't care.
Yeah.
Some will.
It was
point
same
it out.
with football. We tell the
it's
kids same thing in football. Like, hey,
if you get it, you gotta take it out. Like it is what it is.
Yeah,
Like the visor?
yeah, take the visors off or the eye black.
Yeah.
Smeared in the ref. And I always say football. If a ref complains about eye black, you're in for a day. And I'm assuming that'd be about the same for baseball.
Yeah, it is.
It's more of a
it's
stickler.
the same thing. If
you
they're
know.
they're picking that up, they're
Yeah.
gonna watch for everything, and you better.
And you're gonna have a tight strike zone. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to get your boys ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
And do you guys probably get pretty much the same umpires consistently
Yeah.
every game because
Pretty much the same ones.
and not trying to say talk good about umpires or anything, but I've never really seen anything horrible. They're pretty. I've seen one game was pretty rough, but the guy was getting sick.
Yeah, that was. Yeah,
But-
for the most part, we get pretty good officials down here. You know, your favorite's probably Ray Wood. He's the singing one. He does the boop boop, and he's very loud all the time.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
Like he's probably your best one, and I think he's actually in charge of like assigning them. So
Oh, nice.
he should probably be the best one just because he's in charge of all of them. But
Yeah.
for the most part, you get pretty good ones, and we don't go too many places that you see new ones. Every now and then you'll see new ones at like Lewis Central. Sometimes over at Creston you get a few new ones, but
You went far, get out a little farther. Kind of like when we go to Des Moines area, we're getting different refs.
Yep.
They're usually not as good.
Probably doesn't hurt that our AD's the baseball coach too, so he kind of knows them. And he's been around the game long enough, knows the good ones are. That like, hey,
Yeah.
goes to the center, we don't want this guy back. Like, don't send him
Make
this
sure.
way.
Yeah, because every game the one game I know I got verbally loud was the Creston game last year, just because it was a heck of a game and they were stealing the signs.
Yeah, it was-
And then like we talked, like that's baseball though. Like you expect that, just like football. You did a heck of a job stealing Clarenda's signs. And
Yep.
Hannafin, he's not going to stand for it again.
no, yeah, he's not gonna do it. He's already told me they've got other ways. Yeah.
Like, hey, we'll figure it out. Remember that, Hannafin.
Like any sport, you build a rapport with the ones, you get to have the same ones, and
Yeah.
you kind of talk to them, or you get some local guys for. And like the freshman games, it's like, all right, you know what your job is here. It's freshman games, so big strikes on.
I always say, like, football, all sports, you have a family aspect. Football, I mean, it's a little different from other ones because you train all week for one game. It's freaking live or die by that game, and then you have a whole another week to go. But every other sport has that family aspect. I always say a baseball dugout is probably the funnest environment for a baseball or for any sport because you got kids pumping each other up. You got you got the spitting the sunflower seeds everywhere, but then also you got kids making fake radar guns. You got just the shenanigans during a rain delay. Playing tic tac toe with a baseball across to the other team. What's your favorite part like about baseball? As a player or as a coach?
Yeah,
Both of you.
as a player, the best part was just that camaraderie of the team. You had all the people. The dugout was fun. You always, especially when you're winning, it's a little more energetic. You're not always making sense. You're saying stupid things. You're
Some of the buzzwords and one-liners in baseball are we want a pitcher, not a belly itcher. Like, where do you come up with this?
A little more fun aspect. Baseball, like as a coach, I really enjoy like because I call the pitches. So like we've just thrown 2 fastballs. Let's go with a curve, or we got to go backwards today, so we throw a curve instead of a fastball at the start. And I enjoy that part of it, and then being able to talk to the pitcher afterwards and be like, hey, what's working, what's not working, what are you seeing, and kind of hearing their thought process. It was always fun talking with Dawson because he would shake off whatever he didn't like, and he was going to throw what he wanted. And usually he was right. And
Justin, why are we throwing that?
like there was times that he would question, and he does all right. He earned that respect. And
Yeah,
he's
absolutely.
earned that chance to say, I'm not throwing that. I'm throwing what I want. And
Is there guys that you would say, no, throw this?
yeah, there are guys that if they shake me off, they're getting talked to in the dugout and saying, you don't do that again. You throw what I want you to throw. There are some that they get a little more leeway, and usually I'll ask them like, hey, why'd you want to throw that pitch there? If their answer isn't a good one, they're probably not getting that same.
But you're looking for their knowledge, their gamemanship
Yeah.
progressing
Yep.
and growing until they reach that level where you're like, okay, I'll let you shake that off. But I'm sure there's times where Dawson, you're like, okay, in this situation, I called this because of this, and it would have put us in this situation. So it's made him also think, okay, next time maybe I don't shake that off.
Yeah, and usually it's like sometimes like he was one that he had a lot of pitches and his pitches moved.
Yes.
And he liked to have a little fun and throw a curveball to somebody that's gonna look silly swinging at it. And it's fun to see that, but me telling him, like, yeah, you throw that pitch and he doesn't swing. Now he just wasted a pitch. We
Yeah.
could have struck him out on your fastball
Yeah.
and
Now you-
gotten done and over. And
And with high school, you got
Yeah.
that pitch count that you gotta be stringent with.
so there was a lot of talks like that where, like, hey, we shouldn't have wasted that pitch. Like, let's think about that one next time. Not maybe throw that pitch to waste it and just
know the situation kind of thing.
When you know that. And he was pretty good about, usually if things were going good that game, he was willing to talk a little more. When things weren't going great,
Like, leave me
he
alone.
wasn't talking until after the game. But
yeah, and you
just-
those athletes.
Yeah, you just knew who he was and you kind of
Yeah.
let him be, and eventually you'd have that talk, and
And
it
call
was
it,
good. Yeah.
Do you guys?
gone pretty in depth with their pitching stats. He knew their junior year, the senior class last year, like, oh, you threw this many fastballs for strikes and whatnot. And just like during the game, he has a sheet.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we struck this kid out on the curveball last time, but the pitcher might not remember, okay, this guy last time,
And
9 batters ago, 2 innings ago, don't remember we threw him. So
Do you go through it with them before they go out? Like, hey, you got 3, 4, 5. This is what you should be expected to throw.
Yep.
So it
Yep,
kind of breaks.
yep,
So
usually
they're
do
not.
that.
They're not. I mean, that's more in depth than probably a lot of high school.
yeah, he'll have
You know,
to even the pitch.
it teaches them the game too.
Yep.
Are you guys going with
iPad? I can tell him, hey, right field last time, so I'm usually talking to one of the
fielders getting them lined up?
Yeah.
Do you? Are you guys planning on using the telecom system?
Yep. I think
Have you got it and tried it, or
We've contacted them. We've sent them 2 emails with a purchase order number, and they haven't got back to us. So
you don't want business or what?
I don't know what's going on there. Hopefully they'll get back to us soon because we'd like to try it out before a game.
Absolutely.
So Frank, if you're listening,
Is that something you think is going to be a good thing, bad thing, or you're just on the fence still?
I think it'll be a good thing. I think that we actually need to expand it and go pitcher, just so we don't even have to call a sign from the catcher. And then I would like to actually see it go to like a shortstop and center field, so they can kind of adjust the infield depending on a curveball,
Yeah, you could have
changeup,
signals
fastball.
and let them
Yeah,
know.
you can adjust where you're standing, where you're at. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point, but
I
think
probably
it's a good
will.
start.
I mean, the progressions are there. I could see telecommunication coming to high school football. I think they're doing it with college here. They did it in the bowl games last year, so I could see it kind of going that way. I mean, it's technology. That's what everybody. Mason Fisher, he wants one of those AT&T lens things. I'm like, no, like, you ain't deaf, man. Like, you can hear me.
I'm curious as what will happen though, because you're only supposed to call pitches with it. So you're only supposed to say the pitch. You're not supposed to talk defensive strategies. You're not supposed to. So like if we want to talk to our pitcher, but we don't want to waste the timeout call, we can send him up there and he's got the earpiece in.
Yeah.
How are they going to know if
It's gonna be
we're
the
talking
honor-
like
the honor system.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's an honor system. So like
Could
Do
you
you
use it
follow
for?
that?
Could
Do
you
you-
use it for first and third situations though?
you're not supposed
Not
to,
supposed
but
to. Just pitches.
yeah, you're supposed to just call pitches with
everyone's
it.
got a
But
sign for first.
how?
Yeah.
But even that, like, how
Well,
are
instead
you
of
gonna,
you relaying the sign, you just tell him, "Hey, I want this one."
Yeah, and you're not supposed to, but
You're gonna use it.
yeah, it's gonna be impossible for me not to say stuff
No,
and
I
him
think
not to be able to, like it's.
I think the problem.
I wasn't talking
think
to
the
him, I was
problem
talking to the coach.
lies if you hand that walkie-talkie to Mark
yeah,
and he starts talking. To
yeah,
you.
and that could be
That's
where we're
where,
at. It's
you
just
know.
I don't know. I'm curious to see what comes of that. If you
Yeah.
see more,
You're gonna need a third umpire.
They make you throw the walkie-talkie out in the grass.
yeah, if you have to take it out and you have your
Yeah.
coach, or
give it
your
to the
catcher,
umpire. Here, let me hold that.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do with that. So
That'd be interesting to see. That's a good point. I like that because I mean there's no way to police it
no,
mean,
there's
unless you have dugout attendance. I mean,
Yeah, where it's
and-
gonna be.
yeah, it's a wild, wild west.
One more thing they will focus on, they don't need to focus on type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's very true. I mean, they got plenty to watch.
Let's just worry about balls and strikes and
Yeah.
outer safe and the big stuff.
What's yours, Kip? What's your favorite part about baseball, playing, coaching?
Yeah,
all-
there's like some camaraderie because it kind of is like you said, you got to prepare all week for one game in football. It's like, well, sometimes, okay, it's a doubleheader. So like you got a half hour, and then we're starting the next one. If not, maybe
so it's almost the
maybe-
exact opposite.
yeah, it's almost 20 minutes. And go again, and yeah, you just went over 4, but now you're starting on the mound. So it's just kind of the being able to flush it and go a new one, or just the momentum. Growing up in Denison, we had a clubhouse, so like I thought of baseball memories, and I was like, well, it was like football. You got a post game playlist. We had a winning playlist, and after the games, and it's just the inside jokes and the personalities and the camaraderie of the team, and just certain things are funnier when certain guys say them at a certain time. Like Brody Bond will have some one-liners, and they're funny because it's coming from Brody.
Yeah.
Adam's Adam, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like, Cale Hall says something. It's like,
Well, it's
He talks.
the melting pot of different kids. I mean, in all sports too, because you have different kids from all walks of life coming together. Then you put them all in a dugout together, and it's bound to have moments.
You get your Jack Kling in a dugout.
Yeah.
There's some memories there. So yeah, and then just the walk-off wins and stuff like that. Ton of fun. Eubanks kind of got the, hey, we lose, that scoreboard gets turned off
Right away.
quick. If we win, he'll stay up there all night till we're ready to.
That thing's lit up. I walk the dog at 11 o'clock. And I'm like, it's still on. They're still doing field maintenance. So.
There's nothing better than those 1-0 wins when your pitcher
Oh,
does all the work.
that Creston game last year was spectacular. I've seen one other guy. I mentioned it on the podcast before, and he did it for CMB and took him to state. And he pitched the first game. They shut the team out. Second game, they didn't have anybody else. Small school. I mean, it is what it is.
17 strikeouts.
I mean, just getting after it.
He had 17 strikeouts and he had 2 of the other outs.
Mm-hmm.
And there was actually a drop through strike that the guy got on, and otherwise we would have.
Then he picked him off.
Yeah, he picked him off and got the out, and so like he had 20 of the 22 outs that we had to get that night. You don't see that much more dominant
Job
than
done.
that. Like,
Then we go over to Creston, and he does the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, it was nuts. Like we scored the same.
Yeah, it was 1-0 again, wasn't it?
It was
Yeah.
1-0 again. Like we scored it in like the bottom of the 4th inning again.
Everything just.
And
we scored in the top instead of the bottom because it was over
Yeah.
there, but it was like the same inning, same player, same.
yeah, same pitchers and
Just,
like
it's
they're
just-
yeah, they
Same batting orders.
it's just different. It's like,
You had a complete game, two-hitter with 10 Ks. But
Creston's always had some weird ones because we had those 2 last year, 1-0 games. The year before, we played at Creston and it was like 22 degrees outside. And then when we played
Screw
Creston at Red Oak, it was like 110. So it was like an 80-degree difference between game 1 and game
Good
2
two.
versus the other, the Creston. So Creston's always had that different.
Do you think Evan Turner throws against you guys at least once?
Guaranteed. I
Yeah,
asked
they're
their
annoying,
Or Kale, sorry.
I asked
Kale
their
Turner.
head coach at the track meet that we had last here.
Yeah.
And I said, what's the chances of us seeing Turner throw? And he said 100% for the first one. Said maybe even in the second one. So
I don't blame him. I don't
we're
blame
for
the
sure
guy.
getting him.
I mean, as a coach, as a fan and a coach, I mean, you want to see those games, and I mean that's just 2 top-notch pitchers and baseball teams going at it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just those 2 out there. You had other things that had been done to make that game go. Dawson didn't hit a home run to score; somebody had to bring him in, or
Yep.
so it's great. As a coach too, you want those close games. Blowouts are fun when you're winning. They can turn into fun if you're losing, but they shouldn't.
that was our first couple wins over Creston. And
20-some,
Wow,
30-some
yeah.
years, so they were fun.
yeah,
Always good.
at
Always
least
fun
last
to beat,
20-some games, or at least 10 years or so.
always
so.
fun to beat those old Creston Panthers over there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a rivalry, like location-wise, not so much, but they kind of became a little bit of a
Yeah.
rivalry.
It got
At least
tense.
amongst the kids. So.
Yeah, it got a little intense there.
Yeah.
Track, they get along with the Creston kids pretty good. They actually, I mean, it's weird. When I was in school, we got along with some other kids from other schools, but I mean, it was cutthroat. And like you see these kids joking around with each other, it's just a different way of doing things.
Cyrus is out there making friends with everybody.
Yeah, oh yeah.
State of
Is
Iowa.
that social media? Or is that.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think social
just-
media, it opens it up to you were able to meet people easier and do things easier.
Yeah.
So, last thing I had for baseball, first, Cubs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cubs,
Yep.
losers. Phillies, we're doing well. Cubs, they broke, they won. I think they're going for a series win today.
They've played well so far.
What I was going to ask you, the last question I had about baseball, well, Kip looks up
Not TV is stupid.
rankings.
There's another thing. Blackouts stink.
Yes, baseball's notorious for that. You can get out of the American League. Nobody cares about the American League. Phillies 23-11 for the Cubs. Oh, 2 games behind them. No big deal. But hey, I was talking to Mr. Brower the other day. He's a Philly fan as well. We were discussing how Philly always peaks at one point of the season, and if it's the beginning, we're going to be horrible at the end. It's almost like the exact opposite of the Cardinals. Cardinals are horrible all year, and they find a way every single year.
I heard a stat that the Royals had their best April that they've ever had.
Really?
And
Where are they at?
20 and 15.
So they've cooled down a little bit.
Yeah, they like the first start of it was like their best start they've ever had, and they had some good teams in like the 80s and 70s, like with
George Brett
and them were there. They had some good teams, so
Playing good at home.
kind of. My dad's a big Royals fan, and he said it kind of shocked him that was their best start, but that it was one of their best starts.
That's what I noticed, being around you guys the last few years, kind of had the same childhood. You guys both went to a lot of sporting events. I remember going to watch George Brett at Kansas City Royal games, Vince Coleman, Ozzie Smith at St. Louis Cardinal games. Like we did Minnesota Twins going to watch Kirby Puckett, Chuck Knobloch. I mean, I just remember those days. And even going you and your dad, do you still go to the state basketball tournament every year?
We don't go as much now. We used to since COVID. My dad hasn't gone back, not because of COVID, but just hasn't worked out. He wants to get back to going and.
So you remember the barn days?
Yep.
Have you ever gone to the barn?
Yep. Yeah, our Denison girls made it there like 96, 97, 98.
That was Wells Fargo is beautiful. I mean, it's a wonderful facility for high school kids to play in. But unless they experience the barn for wrestling or basketball, like it's not the same. You were on top of the court on the mat. I loved it.
I never experienced it, but they say like 6-on-6.
I never went to one there.
Tournaments were
amazing.
wild.
Yeah. They say it was like a better game than 5-on-5. It was
Yeah.
just more up tempo, and I don't see how. But my mom preaches about it, and I was like, "Well, you never scored a single point in high school basketball." But she's like, "I was lockdown defender." I was like, "Who wants to play defense?" She's like, "I did." But like that was back then. Girls, like 3 girls, wanted to play defense, and they just locked it up.
That's what my grandpa says. It was
entertaining.
probably one of the better state tournaments in anything, and it was girls 6-on-6 basketball.
And that's crazy because you think little old dinky Iowa, our high school wrestling tournament is talked about nationwide. Mm-hmm. We had 6-on-6 basketball for the longest out of anybody, and it's talked. There's movies about it.
Yep.
And just small Iowa. We don't even have a professional sport. We got so-called best women's basketball player, and she's played one preseason game in the WNBA and had 16 points. But the last question I had for baseball was, baseball is kind of an interesting sport. There's a lot of unwritten rules, a lot of rules you might see once every 5 years. The one I always refer to is when I was at Gilbert, they played Pella one night. The last out of the game was a kid didn't get out of the way and got hit, and they called him out. So Gilbert lost to Pella that night. The very next night, it happened again against Van Meter, but this time the Van Meter kid got hit and didn't move, and Gilbert ended up winning. Hadn't seen that ever, and I've coached baseball probably 8 years and been around it for my whole life. What are some of the craziest rules or situations you guys have seen, been around, heard about that like makes baseball special and interesting? I mean, because these rules and stuff you guys have are like you probably can't even learn the whole rule book.
Yeah, it's hard. The one I think the weirdest, like the unwritten rule, is like you're beating a team bad and it's a 3-0 count. You're a good hitter. You usually get a green light, but you can't swing at that pitch because you're up big. Let the kid hit. Like I don't care who he is. Let him hit. It doesn't. I'd rather not waste a pitch. Like let's just let him hit. But I know a major leaguer just got a lot of. He had to like come out and say sorry to the other.
That
team.
Detroit Tiger.
Yeah,
they were saying more. It was more about him like watching it because that dude he lobbed it in there and he just tomahawked that bad boy.
Yeah, it was like I just don't get that. And a lot of like your old school guys, they don't like the new like swagger.
Yeah.
The throw the bat flips, the watching. I think it brings a lot of excitement to games.
It's almost like the bucket
fun.
though we talk about in football. Like don't let it overflow too much.
Yeah. I think that some of that's getting a little out of hand, but for the most part, it's all in good fun. Like let it go. One of the rules is like you can't use your equipment. Like I can't take my hat off and catch a ball with it. That's illegal.
But could you catch one barehanded?
You can catch it barehanded, but you can't catch it with your hat. And it's come up twice where I've seen it. One of them, a catcher blocked it, and they had a runner on. The runner went back to the base, and he like took his mask off, and he scooped the ball towards him, and he got called for a balk So the runner got to go to second, and it had no effect on the play. Like there's nothing that's going on. So he couldn't do that, but there was just a game the other night that a runner was running, his helmet fell off or was like falling, and he like caught it, and he slid over second base and reached out with the helmet to touch the base and got tagged, but he's safe because he didn't do it on purpose. It's not a purposely done thing. If he would have done like taking his helmet off to reach for it, then he's out. But
It was
because it fell off and he caught it, he can use it. It's just
That's
weird.
just weird.
Like
how is that a rule?
you either
Like,
can or can't. Like there shouldn't be a
Yeah.
on purpose or not on purpose. Or,
no
like,
in between.
or like the catcher. There was one where catcher third strike foul ball. Catcher catches it in his mask. It gets stuck in his mask. Well, that's not a caught ball. It's not a caught third strike. That's a drop.
Even if you knocked it out and
But
caught
even,
it.
yeah, but you just caught it in your face mask. You're not using it on purpose. Why is that not an out? But it's not an out.
What if it banged off his mask and he caught it? Would it count?
No, that would count if it bangs off and you catch it. That's a caught third strike because it never touched the ground. But if you catch it with your mask, that's just a dead ball. And it's
That's like code 702.14
Yeah.
through 18.
Yeah, it's a weird rule.
Yeah. I'd say a lot of the other unwritten rules are just kind of more sportsmanship type stuff of taking extra bases or if the game's out of hand. And
Not stealing and stuff.
yeah, there was just kind of a weird play. It was probably 5 years ago. We were playing at Clarinda. I think they might have had the bases loaded, and they had a fly ball to right field, and our guy was maybe, let's just say, not very experienced. So he was going up there and kind of maybe was one of those guys that put it up there a little early. We had a pretty fast center fielder, so he was going to back it up. It bounced off our right fielder's glove, and then up into the air, and our center fielder was coming, and he was able to reach back and catch it. Well, the runners left when the ball touched the right fielder's glove.
Yeah.
So then they left, but the ball wasn't technically caught till the center fielder got control of it. So 1 out from the hitter. We got the guys on third and second
Triple
for
play.
not tagging up for a triple play.
Did the other team's coach complain about it?
Yeah.
But
But it was just crazy. They're like, hey, they called the guys get in the dugout.
Yeah.
So we're just yelling on our ears.
But
Good job,
that
good
technically, because he's got to possess the ball. It's like one count? I mean,
Yeah.
it's more of a judgment call.
Yeah, it's all judgment call.
Because I mean, they always talk about
It bounced off his glove.
because they're
He reached back and like, hey, go to second, go to third.
throw it in, throw
Try
it.
it.
Kind of like the he didn't
how the
touch
refs
second.
saw,
Throw,
like,
get it in quick.
Saw that and that and that. And
Yeah, that's why baseball is.
if it was the other way, I mean, I'm sure we would have been mad, but
And like
like,
most
we'll take.
most times you're wanting them to take the out, but let's say you're up one, bases loaded, 2 out or 1 out, and there's a pop fly that's a foul ball that you can catch, but you're gotta go running back to catch it. So they're probably gonna tag up and score. You probably let that drop. You don't take the out and hope that you get a ground ball where you can get an out or a pop fly that's an easier out. And there's just so much in baseball that can come up that's
Little thing. I know when I coached at Ames, we used to have a red call. So first and third, and my guy would get off a lead on first, and like right when the pitcher is about to go, I would scream red from third base, and our guy would take off running, and the pitcher would like end up always balking. Now, probably bad sportsmanship. I probably shouldn't be screaming red, but the other team's coach lectured his kid like, you can't listen to him. You have to just throw the pitch.
we had a play where when we were in the field, if they had runners on first and second, our short and second baseman would make a lot of noise and run in front of their second, like it was just really loud, and we'd make a lot of noise while our first baseman would sneak in from behind, and we'd pick off to first. We'd do a back pick to pick them off, and a lot of times the runner would be staring at second base, watching what's going on. What is going on, and we'd pick them off really easy. And
I remember when I played, our coach was Matt Brait. We call him Master Brait. He told us to tell the kid on first that was ball 4, and he took off to second. threw it to second, tagged him out, and it was against Gilbert, our arch rival, and they got pissed because they were like coming back. And I think we ended up winning still, close game, but they were coming back that inning, and we got this kid to go off and tagged him out, but I got him.
We had
Another weird thing, like our dugout, like their guys coaching 10 feet away, based on where the dugout and coach's box
Yeah.
is. But in Red Oak, it's pretty close. It's like,
They're
yeah,
right
like
there.
the coach can just coach from 10 feet in front of our dugout.
Yep. And then I always hated the rule, and most umpires didn't complain about it, but like you have to stay in the coaches. But I mean, I'm at third base. That kid's gonna hit a 70-mile-per-hour liner at me. I'm gonna stand back here. Like I don't care what you say.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. If you're back, there's not gonna be too many refs.
Yeah.
It's more if you get closer to home.
We had one when I was at Ballard at that time. I was coaching 7th grade, and you had to be in that coaching box, and I'm like,
At least
dude, like, come on, this is
When
crazy.
you go to some places, like ours are very distinct. And it's like you walk over and they're like, this kid just got mowed. Like, is there a line over here? Like,
Yeah, some of them are just the patch because the grass is growing over it and they haven't trimmed it, edged it out again.
or they want to do a true box, it'll just be like an L.
Yeah.
So it's, can't go there, but
I got all the way to the fence out here.
So it's, yeah, it varies.
That makes baseball is probably one of the most unique sports, other than like you get over into other countries and play cricket and stuff where we probably don't know any of the rules and there's just weird rules. But baseball, for an American sport, football, baseball, basketball, it's probably the most unique sport there is.
Well, just like
and that's why it's American's
your mound and
American's
bases
pastime.
are and boxes the same, but like every field's different. The mound
Yep.
space, like no, every basketball court's the exact same. Every
Yeah.
football court's
And then
football
that's,
field's the same dimensions.
I love that about baseball too, because you can get some weird. Des Moines East, their right field is their bleachers for football, so it's like cut out, and it's like 260, but it's super high, and then it loops all the way back, and like center's like 320. It's crazy.
We played on 2 fields, one at Sydney. They have a new one out there, high school now, but when I was in school, it was downtown where our bus got stuck. Their right field was a hill, and if you hit the building up on top, it was a home run. If you hit it on the hill, the player had to run up and grab it.
Yeah,
It's just really weird. Like,
Pleasantville had that.
like a really weird standing, and then we played at Farragut one year, and they had their cinder track run through the middle of center field, and it's like, well, what do we do here? We're standing in the center, like
Stand on the track.
Our center fielder asked if he needed to bring his track spikes that night because it was just so weird.
And didn't we meet? You had a good story about Coach Wood.
Yeah,
Jacob Wood.
Him and his teammate. We hit a ball that they ran after, and they ran into each other, and like the front 2 teeth were in the other kid's head, and they were concussed.
he got like
and-
knocked out. He's like, yeah, I was not that kid.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was funny because you were just telling the story.
Yeah,
because he was from
He
Farragut.
was there, and it was like, man, that's crazy. It was,
makes for a small world.
yeah, it was interesting, but yeah, that field was
Interesting.
Yeah, it was different.
We played at Pleasantville had a field. It went up to their football field, so the left field had a hill. Colonesco, they used to have the home run was over their elementary school, and they had like chicken wire over their windows and stuff. So I remember playing at some interesting and some really nice places. But high
Coolest
school,
place. We got to play in the Metrodome. We could rent out space. Well, we played the varsity game. Then we got to play like we had paid for time.
Yep.
So when we had like a JV type game, we were playing like Charles City. I got brought in from left field to get the save. Well, I think some guy got a base hit. The next kid hits a line drive over to second base, but it's back in the Metrodome, so it's turf.
Yep.
It rolls to the wall. So I
Inside
gave
it.
up the lead. Ended up getting the win. But when I got up to the plate, I hit a foul ball straight in the air, and it hit a speaker. And it hit the speaker and bounced back, and they're like, "Well, that'd have been an out if they cut it in fair territory." And my coach,
Another one of those.
coach after the game tried getting a fungo and tried hitting it, and he couldn't
do it.
My joke is that I hit a speaker in the Metrodome.
Yeah.
But I say
I
it's the
bet
one in left field, not the one above the visitors'
Curry
dugout.
Puckett probably never did that. That'd be kind of cool. I remember going to games in the Metrodome, and those steps were like this. We took my uncle to see the Detroit Lions, and Barry Sanders played. He got to his seat, and he sat back the whole time because you leaned forward a little bit, like you felt like you were falling out. But we used to have tickets to Viking games, and yeah, we took him one time. One time, that's all he made it. So, well, on the baseball topic, our top 5 this week is going to be our top 5 favorite baseball players. So it's based off who they liked. You know, we got a couple. I got a little bit more years on. I might have a couple guys that they heard of but never saw. I added one there to my honorable mention there during our little talk there. My honorable mentions are quick. Derek Jeter, because he's the captain. I hate to admit it, but he's a Yankee. But that guy's he's special baseball player. Andre Dawson. I grew up watching Andre Dawson. I love that guy. Even though I met him at the iCubs game, got his autograph, and he did not look up once. I said thank you, and he just said, ugh, and just handed me the ball. As a Philly fan, this is probably a tough one to say, but I just love the way he pitched. Mitch Williams, fall down every time. I think there was a hit out for him for at least 10 years, but now he calls Philly games, so they let him back. And then the one I added was Ozzie Smith. Watching him do a backflip before games and just watching him cover ground at shortstop. I don't follow baseball as much as I used to, but there's probably been players better at shortstop, but that guy is probably top 3 all time at shortstop. Cal Ripken Jr., I mean, that guy just played a long time. I don't think he was that good, but that's a whole nother podcast. So my top 5, number 5, he was a backup first baseman for the Philadelphia Phillies. He backed up John One Nut Kruk. It was Ricky Jordan. The only baseball jersey I ever had in my life was a Ricky Jordan jersey. You couldn't buy it. I took it up to Sports Page and had him put Ricky Jordan on the back, number 17, number 17 Jordan. I still have the jersey. It's at my parents' hanging in the basement. That's the only baseball uniform I ever had in my life. Horrible, 281 batting average. I mean, that's not horrible for baseball. But yeah, he played.
Homered in his debut.
He homered in 7/17, 1988. But he played on those. He was a veteran when they were going to the World Series with Darren Dalton, Lenny Dykstra, and those guys.
Ricky was a nickname.
Yeah. So, I did not know that. But yeah, Ricky Jordan. But that's one you guys never heard of.
He looks familiar. Like in the
he didn't play
pictures,
much.
I don't know him.
But because Crucky was getting old too, so Crucky took a lot of nights off on those World Series runs that they lost. But Joe Carter, don't say he's putting Joe Carter on your list.
I'm not that old. So, my honorable mentions. Well, my joke was going to be we didn't say they had to be real baseball players, so I was going to say Hamilton Porter, the great Hambino. So I had John Kruk as one of my honorable mentions.
I love Crucky.
He's got his famous All-Star game for Randy Johnson. Lefty going to go switch righty because he didn't want to go lefty with Randy Johnson.
Yeah.
And just kind of, for me, growing up baseball tonight.
Yes, that's what I was going to. I think he's better as a commentator than he was a player. And he was a great player, too.
He's built like the average American, too. So that kind of gives him a lovable feel.
Like a CC Sabathia, David Wells.
And then he's on the Cubs for a couple years. It was more just, I say I met him once, was Ben Zobrist.
Yep.
He had the famous hit in the Cubs World Series. But we got to... It was Game 5 of the 2016 World Series. We didn't have tickets into the game. We were just going to spend, we paid like $200 to have a reserve seat in a bar across the street. And my sister-in-law had never been to a game or never been to Wrigley. Me and my brother hadn't been there for a while, so we went all the way around. When you get to the entrance, like there's a player's entrance, so you can go down the field because all the media. So you had to like go around, and we're like walking on a sidewalk, and all of a sudden the guy goes by on a bike. As he gets closer, it's like, Jeremy, that was Ben Zobrist. Like he lived in Wrigleyville and he was riding his bike to the World Series game. I'm like, when this comes up, like when we tell people this story, we're gonna say that's my new best friend, Ben Zobrist.
We went on a bike ride.
Yeah, we're gonna embellish this a lot more than him really just zooming
riding
by. So Ben Zobrist was honorable mention. My number 5. Growing up, you would come home and I had my brother, who was 6'4" and left-handed and playing first base. Well, he wasn't 6'4" then, but he'd be watching Cubs games. And so my brother's favorite players, and turned into one of mine, was Mark Grace.
Solid first baseman.
So he wore number 17, so my brother wore 17. So I wore 17 in high school, and he was a lefty.
Solid stick. He was always a contact hitter.
Yeah, like 300 average hitter, was a pretty good fielder, just never had a ton of success on the Cubs, but I think he won a World Series in 2001 with the Diamondbacks.
Yep.
And when you see on the Diamondbacks, he gave up David Ross's first career home run. Kind of
Goes
fun
full
personality. My brother named his truck Grace or something because it was Cubby Blue, and he was a big Mark Grace fan. So Mark Grace is my number 5.
I had an honorable mention. Ray Caldwell pitched for the 1919 Indians. In his debut, he was struck by lightning in the 9th inning. He finished the game after being revived. 17 days later, threw a no-hitter versus the Yankees. Craziest stat I've ever heard. So he's got to go on there.
Yeah, he's got to.
The other two are more like personal. Justin Toole, he played for LC, went to Iowa. He is now with Seattle, I think, in their coaching staff, hitting wise. He played for the Indians, but he made his highs their AAA team. But in Single A for the Carolina Mudcats, he played all 9 positions in 9 innings game. It's pretty cool. He's got a good book about it. Tells life lesson from each position. And
I've seen about 10 games of Mudcat baseball.
Yeah.
His dad was a long-time Hall of Fame coach.
That's
dad was
in
LC's.
charge of the president of the Baseball Coaches Association. So.
That's a fun stadium to go to games for AAA. Durham Bulls.
The other one is Craig Counsell. He's better known as a manager than a player, really.
But he admit Diamondback days.
Yeah, he played. He's more of a manager, but the thing about him was that he played for the Red Sox.
Really?
He stayed here in town, and we had some camps and things that he would come back for. And it was just really cool to know that, hey, this guy's.
I liked him.
He's now managing the Cubs, so he makes it a little more better for me. But I'm like, yeah,
He was a scrapper back in the day.
And he was one of those weird batting guys too.
Yeah. So it was nice to see him have that.
Not as bad as Juan Franco.
My number 5 is Sammy Sosa. Some don't like the steroid use, but I think it brought baseball back to the world.
Dude, him and Mark McGwire.
People were kind of giving up on baseball after the strike, and then
Yep.
you had these guys going after it in the 1998 season where they both were just every day 2, 3, 1, 2.
Oh, it was amazing.
It was must watch. It was a huge part of my daily routine in the afternoons, coming home watching WGN. Sosa, seeing him 2-hop it and point to the sky, and it was just a great time. Yeah, the whole everything like that is great. So,
And then his sprint out to right,
Yeah.
the loop. And,
he's my number
Where I
5.
figured out where the Dominican Republic was. It's the same.
number 4 for me, it's already been said. I'm a Philly fan, but I grew up in Iowa, and when back in the 90s, late 80s, you came home and you watched WGN, or you could watch Turner, TBS, and watch the Braves every once in a while, and the Cardinals every once in a while. But it's Cubs every single day. Every single day. So Mark Grace. I mean, I was going to put Ryan Sandberg down, but it was he was too good. Mark Grace was the everyday man that was out there playing baseball. And I played first base when I wasn't pitching.
Didn't wear batting gloves.
Never good at baseball, but they got Moises Alou. He used to pee on his hands. But so Mark Grace.
So my number 4, which going back to previous guests and top 5s, how we haven't had any. My number 4 is Sammy Sosa. So it's we're already doubling up way more.
Well, we got 2 Cubs fans in the building.
So it was bound to happen. He's just he was kind of my favorite growing up. Then now Mark Grace, I kind of grew into it, him being my favorite. Looking back on it, but 1998, we actually were able to go to a game. It ended up being Sammy Sosa Day, and they gave him some convertible car. The mayor's family sang the 7th inning stretch, and they lost them to the Reds. But I just remember that. But it was 1998. So home run race.
Yep.
I think we just remodeled their house, and it was 1998. So my room was Chicago Bulls, and I had the red carpet. Well, my brothers had blue carpet because his was Cubs themed, so we had red, white, and blue, and we looked patriotic on our carpet. But Sammy Sosa, growing up in Iowa, being a Cubs fan in the late 90s.
Nice.
Goes on to have 360 home run seasons in a row, top 10 all-time home runs. So kind of a interesting character now, but
I said now you wouldn't even recognize it.
No.
yeah.
I had that
Crazy.
pigment stuff done. Oh, yeah, it's weird.
It's crazy.
He's I don't think he's in the Cubs Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
There's kind of ongoing drama's the right word, but
Well, it's,
trying to get him back to be in the Hall of Fame and
Yeah.
just come back to Wrigley.
It's almost like the Pete Rose thing. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like what they did for baseball. Take away what happened outside the game, what they did to perform, but what they did for baseball. Like I said, the strike.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought baseball back from the dead. Like, give these guys their due.
Yeah, and my thing is, they weren't the only ones using it.
No.
Pitchers were using it. The
Oh, yeah.
catchers were using it. Everybody was using
It's
it.
just the
and
ones that ballooned up
Yeah.
are the ones that got busted.
Yeah, and it wasn't as highly like, hey, we're not saying it's right, but we're gonna turn our eye when we're cashing these checks and watching
Oh yeah,
these.
but now it's becoming an issue because there's a home run race,
Yeah.
and then Jose Canseco comes out and says some stuff in his book, and now it's a big issue. It helped the game. It just hurt them physically.
My number 4 is Cal Ripken Jr. His record of 2,632 straight games is, I think, in my opinion, it'll never be broken.
Never.
I mean, with today's world with rest days and
Yep.
you just are you're bigger, stronger, faster, so you're more likely to have a few injuries every now and then. And I just don't think it'll ever be broken. And it's
Yep.
unbelievable. I can remember watching the game where he didn't play and riding a horse around in the stadium and just everybody. I mean, it's just crazy to think about.
I remember
that many.
I remember watching the game that he broke the record. Watch on ESPN. What's that announcer back in the day? I can't remember, but yeah, I remember watching the game. I never thought. I mean, he was a good player.
Yeah.
But he was never like a great player. I feel like what made him great was having that record and
Yeah.
just continuously playing. Like you could put the trust in he was going to play and do well.
You never had an off day. Like it's just weird that you just don't see it very often.
No, you'll never see anything like that again.
Yeah.
Ever.
I mean,
And it was Lou Gehrig's record that he beat.
Yep.
Icon of the game. He didn't beat some Joe Schmo that.
But then he broke it at 21-30, and he ended up playing another 502 games after that in a row. It's not like he just broke it and said, "Okay, I'm taking the day off."
162
He's like,
games a year, so 3 full seasons.
yeah, he didn't. I mean, he probably didn't miss a game with the Orioles. He left the Orioles, didn't he? He didn't end his career with the Orioles, did he?
yeah, I don't know on that one, but
I might be wrong on that. I feel like he played. No,
Yeah.
Orioles his whole career. Yep.
128. And,
that's just
yeah, 162 and 62.
That's amazing.
162.
Amazing. Started in 1981, played in 3,001 career games, and 2,600 of them were in a row.
That's just it's just never gonna be broken.
That's insane. So what would have been 1998 would have been the first time he missed a game? No, 1989.
Just say what year.
Well, based off, because in 1989 he only had 83 games played.
Didn't know if it'd say.
When did he take his first break? I'd break the streak. 95 is when he broke it. Then he had another 500 games. Yeah, so it'd be about 99. Yeah. So number 3, it's going to be September 20th, 1998, against the Yankees. Had to be against the Yankees. Always had to have the Yankees in the record book somewhere.
98 was a happening year.
Oh yeah, we're getting it all done. Well, this guy played during the '98 season. I'm gonna go with the big unit, Randy Johnson. That dude threw some straight heat. I remember watching Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan, he had that attitude and everything, but Randy Johnson, watch that 6'6" frame, just setting the ball in the pitcher's 6'10", just setting the ball in the pitcher's or the catcher's mitt, and also when he blew up the bird. That was the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. Threw a pitch, hit a bird in mid-flight, and just exploded in midair, and it was what to do. And then his intimidation. I mean, the way he just held his glove, and you could just see his eyes, and he just brought it.
Sports science tried to duplicate that.
Impossible.
In the bird, and they couldn't even do it, and it was just.
Oh, you see his feathers, and everybody's just like, "What the heck?
What is that? What's that called?" I mean, is it a ball? Is
Redo?
it like
Run it back.
I've never seen that.
Run it back. Boom!
Man, just
like the odds of that, and that was probably 100, probably 95, 98 mile per hour.
Just
Randy Johnson's my number 3. Kip.
So mine is Randy Johnson was a great one, and I like '98 Cubs were decent, and he got traded from like Seattle to Houston.
Yeah.
So you're just this hired gun that comes down and just annihilates in the playoffs. So I like hated Randy Johnson for a little bit based on that. Then when you got to the D-backs, it's like you're a dog.
Well, then he was pitching with Kurt Schilling too, and he stole
Every other
he
game.
left from the Phillies, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me! These D-backs are
Yeah.
they bought that title.
So 6 out of the 7 games were either Schilling or Randy Johnson. But my number 3 is Kerry Wood. So another Cub, right in that age frame of I'm becoming youth, becoming teenager, watching Cubs baseball. Kerry Wood, famous 2021
21.
20 strikeout game. I feel like I should know this season. My favorite player, but it's 2021.
Only third.
So,
Only third favorite, so
Yeah.
it's okay. 20K.
yeah, 20 strikeout game was kind of big
And he
deal.
was still kind of a no name at that time. I mean, he was people knew who he was, mainly in the Cubs fan base, but
Yep.
he kind of came. That was his like here I am day. 20-year-old Kerry Wood threw his historic 20 strikeout game.
Yep, yeah, he's only 20 years at the time. Again, 1998. So everything's gone
The
on.
peak of baseball.
But yeah, he kind of later, I doubt Mark Pryor's on your top list, but him and Mark Pryor teamed up to be a lethal combo. So, yeah, Kerry Wood ended up going to Yankees and other places. But kinda,
Yeah.
I think he came back and retired as a
Kind of
Cub.
fizzled.
finishes.
Yeah,
So-
had some arm injuries that kind of
Yep.
pulled him
Yeah,
back.
he was having arm injuries before it was cool like it is now. But
Yeah.
yeah, Kerry Wood, my number 3.
They both were questioned here. I put Nolan Ryan,
Yeah,
5,714 strikeouts, just
the Nolan Express.
dominant. I mean, he's probably one of the more dominant pitchers.
What about the
ever,
fight?
like-
Him and Robert
Yeah,
Ventura.
the tackle at the.
What? Dude,
Like,
he just murdered him.
I mean, and the thing with him is, and same with like Randy Johnson, you knew what was coming.
Yeah.
You knew it was heat. You knew heat was coming, and you still couldn't hit it, and it was just
Bringing it.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
He's just-
Nolan Ryan, and he's a great ambassador for the game now too.
Yeah.
I mean, he just, oh man, that guy could bring it.
And I mean, I caught him in the later days, but just he was
That's
so.
a crazy thing. His first game was in '66, and he didn't retire till
93.
'93. Because there's some batter he faced.
Faced his son and grandson.
Or,
probably.
He faced a batter that faced Babe Ruth, and his grandson's facing some kid.
I said I think
Crazy.
I think he's one of the few pitchers that have struck out like grandpa, dad, son combo.
I could see it, and he was vicious too. And then another one, Roger Clemens.
Yeah.
I mean, those three that during that time frame, were just bringing it. And hey, that's kind of ironic how we all picked pitchers for our third one.
Yeah.
So my number 2, technically, is probably number 1 on a lot of people's lists. I'd say if there was a better logo for baseball, his swing would be the logo, Ken Griffey Jr. Or him running up the wall in a half moon. And there's played with his dad. Truly should have played with his dad, unlike LeBron and Bronny. But
You boys. You hate him.
I gotta poke it every time, man. But I mean, I don't. Words can't express. I had the Ken Griffey Jr. cross trainer shoes. I kind of had that Griffey bats. I didn't have the Griffey swing at all, but I mean, it was just such a smooth.
Everybody
natural-
emulated it.
had natural swing path and just an amazing athlete. Amazing.
Made the backwards hat look cool. Just was, yeah.
And then they had his buddy Jay Bruner out there in right field. They were a good team back then.
Yeah.
John
Yeah.
Olerud in his
John
actual
Olerud.
helmet.
Yeah. I wore one of those in my 8th grade year. One of the actual batting helmets at first base. Everybody was like, "What are you wearing that?" I'm like, "I'm John Olerud."
He's the one stays healthy his whole career. Probably has.
Oh, when he
A lot
got to the
more
Reds
records.
is when he started deteriorating.
Yeah.
Still ended up playing long enough until the White Sox for a couple of years.
And if he doesn't get hurt, he's probably the home run champ.
Yeah.
Dude used to crank him out.
Well, yeah, home run derbies. He won a couple.
Yeah, but that swing, I mean,
Yeah.
it,
He's one I I remember hating him because he was so good, type of thing. Like,
Just iconic.
but we had there's a game on Super Nintendo called Ken Griffey Jr.'s
Yep.
Winning Run. So the Manners were awesome on us. It's like
Yeah, and it wasn't Jay Bruner, it was just this big old bulky guy.
slugos.
Oh, me and my
They
brother
had all
used
these
to
names. Viper Ramirez.
we used to geek out on some Ken Griffey Jr. baseball on Super Nintendo. Kip?
So my number 2, I finally moved from. Mine are all Cubs. I feel like I kind of cheated,
Alfonso Soriano?
but I moved up from 1998 to 2016, and one of the more famous home runs, and now current Philly, Kyle Schwarber. So he was.
I hated that guy. Now I love him.
Yeah, he's built like an average American, but he
Yeah.
doesn't hit the ball like an average American.
He looks like he'd go out for a beer after the game with you.
No, I bet. Yeah, I would love to. So Kyle, if you're listening, if you're ever in the area, but yeah, famous the Schwarber bomb, and it was against the Cardinals, so it
Makes
made
it
it
even
so
better.
much better that it was
Oh, yeah.
against the Cardinals. But yeah, and then the 2016 season, just getting hurt like third game of the year, coming back, and then being a DH after tearing your ACL in
Yeah.
April, coming back just to hit and.
Hit a bomb.
You know, he got a base hit. They pinch ran for him. Then there was a long pop fly, and his pinch runner tagged up and went to second. And there's just you bring back all the memories. I'll get teary-eyed if I talk too much about the 2016 team.
He hit some bombs he's been hitting bombs for Phillies. but
So it's kind of sad to
can't
see
get over the
him
hump.
go because he'll always be a favorite. He'll always be invited back to Cubs and regularly just based on that 20 year. If he ever buys a beer in Chicago, you better not.
Never happened. We were on the
Yeah.
south side.
No.
My number 2 is Javier Baez. Played second base. I played second base some. He played short. Just his tags at second are unbelievable. He's so quick. One of my favorites is actually, I don't even know what it's called, the World Games or whatever, and he's playing
Baseball
with
Classic.
the World
Yeah.
Baseball Classic, and he's playing with Yachty. Yachty throws a guy out at second, and he's pointing at him and making a tag without even looking. We got this guy.
He's the
you're
swagger.
good. And
He's that swagger
He brings
you're
that
talking about.
swagger, the fun. He's always just he's a lot of fun to
Well, he
watch.
got their nickname El Mago, the magician, because all his tags were
He,
magic.
he was somebody that he was either going to hit it really, really hard. The first couple years, he was either going to hit a bomb or he was striking out. But some of his swings take him to his knee, and
Oh, he's
And he
almost
has this famous play.
yeah. That was,
and
that was,
the
that was
pirate
awesome.
play where
Yeah.
he goes back to home, and
He's almost as good as Chase Utley.
Now he's in purgatory, Detroit.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's just smart baseball.
yeah,
And it's stupid
and
baseball.
so bad
and Pirates.
baseball, some bad.
And he still goes to first.
The problem is if they
Don't
get
worry.
this out there, if that guy catches it and touches first, that run still
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
count.
still- yeah.
It still doesn't count. So all you had to do is
It reminds me of Babe Ruth baseball, and you're the coach in the dugout. Stop throwing the ball! I love it. You guys probably get that in high school baseball
Just
too.
get the
Oh,
ball
yeah.
and walk it to the...
you
Get it to the pitcher.
You're gonna watch a snowball fight every now and then. It's not always the fun.
Steal a pickle. Well, we'll get to number one. I forgot I had a disclaimer I had to add. Me and Jamie are driving back from Council Bluffs, Target, and so
Target?
she was actually texting you. I was telling her what to text you, and she goes, "You're doing top 5 favorite baseball players. Are you going to mention my favorite?" I'm like, "Well, who is it?" And she's like, "That one guy." I'm like, a little more. So she finally got it out. I didn't give her any hints. Cole Hamill. That was her favorite player.
Okay.
I think it might
Former
be her baseball crush. But she wanted me to make sure I mentioned Cole Hamill was because she's not a sports person. If you know Jamie, she's more of an artsy kind. She doesn't really give a crap about sports. But she knows who Cole Hamill is.
That's a good pick.
That ain't a bad pick.
Yeah, that's
Not a bad pick at all. But I'm going to go with my number one pick. He played back in the Phillies days when they were going to World Series, lost to Joe Carter in Toronto. Other outfielders used to wonder why there was big puddles all over the center field and it wasn't raining out until they realized it was puddles of chew spit. My favorite player of all time is Lenny Dykstra. Just a scrapper on the field, that blue collar mentality. He's in prison now for racketeering. He might be out now. I read his book. He's very, very, very interesting man. Great career with the Mets as well. I think he won a World Series with the Mets. Started there, but he's just a character, and he's that Jack Kling. Everybody needs a Lenny Dykstra. Everybody needs a Jack Kling. So Lenny Dykstra is my all-time favorite player.
So about the same time period for the Phillies. This is not related to my number one. Was it Darren Dalton?
Yep,
about
catcher.
the same time period. He's like a catcher. I just remember that name from that time period. And decent hitter, catcher.
His son is in the league now. I don't know if he's made it all the way to the league, but he's in the system somewhere.
Yeah. I thought you were going Darren Dalton. Then I'm like, oh yeah, Lenny Dykstra was the guy back then too.
But that would have been John Kruk, and all those boys on that team.
Yep.
Then we lost again. Right?
So my number one is another 2016. We never had an official captain, but if I say captain of the 2016 team, everyone's going to think Anthony Rizzo. So just based on 2016 and everything he kind of did for the Cubs, that sounds kind of weird, but he'll always be my favorite because of just his personality. And then he went through some crap years in 14, 13, and then just the most iconic, catch the ball, put in there, Cubs win, go crazy.
Put it in his back pocket.
Yep. That's
smart.
And another there he goes. You have a good career. You win a title, and then where do you go?
Yankees.
The Yankees.
The Yankees are
But he had the Yankees and Red Sox.
he had a famous one, like he was walking towards the Reds dugout, like gonna challenge Aroldis Chapman to like a fight. It's like, okay, yeah. It's like, maybe not that guy like you want to fight, but like
pick somebody.
yeah, like I'm glad you're fighting for your boys.
I like the pumped up chest here.
Yeah. So my number one, Anthony Rizzo. Hopefully he'll come back. He'll be in the Cubs Hall of Fame
Someday, yeah.
at some point. So if he ever has to buy a beer in Chicago, it should never happen.
If he's not in the Hall of Fame, they might as well take the picture of him raising his arms down in the Hall of Fame as well.
Yeah.
I took it as too easy to choose those kind of guys because it's fresh, it's new. So mine, number one is Greg Maddux. One of the best pitchers ever.
The best pitcher ever.
Yeah. His win-loss record wasn't all that great all the time, but he had 3,371 strikeouts, excluding intentional walks. He only had 133 batters reach a 3-0 count on him. Like, just unbelievable thing. He actually threw a complete game versus the Cubs. They won 4-1, and he only threw 77 pitches.
Yeah.
The whole game. Just efficiency was through the roof, and as a high school coach, that's what you want. And
he was the ace of that Braves team that had Avery, Smoltz, Glavin. Avery, I mentioned him first, and he was probably their fourth.
Yeah, they were legit, but
and he was such a maestro. Like Randy Johnson and Nolan Ryan they just overpower you, but Maddux is gonna trick you.
Yeah, he's like upper 80s for a fastball. Just
kind of like that. Was it Roy Oswald? Like barely threw it 70 miles per hour, but he had a 40-year career.
Yeah, he painted corners and just.
Yeah, so you never ask him to paint your house because you won't finish it. He just paints the corner.
Yeah.
He was just so good about, and he eventually became a Cub, which made it even better for us.
Well, he was a Cub, then he left.
And then he came back.
But he came back. And
so he's when he
played for the Dodgers and the Padres as well near the end. That's a solid list. We'll rip through them really quick. Our top five. Mine was from 5 to 1. Ricky Jordan, Mark Grace, Randy Johnson, Ken Griffey Jr., and the great Lenny Dykstra.
I went Mark Grace at 5, Sammy Sosa 4, 3 was Kerry Wood, 2 Kyle Schwarber, 1 Anthony Rizzo.
5 was Sammy Sosa, 4 Cal Ripken Jr., 3 Nolan Ryan, 2 Javier Baez, and 1 Greg Maddux.
It's a pretty solid list. Obviously, mine was the best once again, like always.
No one knows who Ricky Jordan is. I can't even talk about it.
They do now. The Google search engine on Wednesday morning is going to be number 1, Ricky Jordan. Just watch. But hey, thanks again for listening to episode number 11. Remember to hop on YouTube and subscribe so you can get all the updates. Thanks again. Roll Tigers.